Hello. Today, my friends and I are going to dive into Book 4 of The Wheel of Time, The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan. Should be noted for all of you watching, if you haven't watched or Drink and Discuss before, that we will be going into basically all the spoilers up to the end of Book 4. There's no way for us to have these long discussions without really diving into spoilers and really digging deep into what the books are about. So, heads up on that, but I hope you guys enjoy as we drink and discuss. All right, guys, we are back. We're going to be doing The Shadow Rising today, Book 4 of The Wheel of Time. Everyone's back again. Riker, Marcus, Logan. So, we got a little something special, though, today. Marcus,
Starting off with a bang.
We're going to start off with some interesting context for our review, just to give you guys some extra opinions beyond ours. Marcus looked up some critical reviews of this book. Marcus, you wanna grace us with this wisdom of critique?
This is the number one liked 1-star review on Goodreads. All right. 1.5 stars. That out of left field fat shaming shit at the end was really just the last straw. I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you, Mariah.
Is that reference to
Lanfear?
Well, yeah, because Lanfear is like the one hiding in the bigger woman, right? Like she's and she's like,
because she says the thing about
she's like
I don't mind hiding as a fat woman.
She's like she's like a little bit of fat doesn't bother my opinion of myself. How is that? I guess maybe really I was gonna say I feel like that's not fat shaming.
That's probably the most body positive message this book has actually given us.
I guess. All right, Marcus, next one.
Let's see. This is from 2014.
Ooh,
painfully sexist and cliche. Possibly the most overrated fantasy series of all time.
Ooh, I don't know
that's it.
Overrated? I mean, like, let me just be clear. Like, I mean, Wheel of Time's a great series overall, but like, I feel like almost every series nowadays is overrated because people just get like so hype about everything.
Right, everything's great,
but
bad.
There's definitely like, I would say Harry Potter's far more overrated than Wheel of Time.
True.
Oh, for sure.
And people can fight me on that, but I will give them this benefit of the doubt though. I would say, I mean, granted, this book was written in like the early 90s, and this was before it was in the public consciousness about like these types of things. But yeah, there's a little bit of sexism.
Sexist a little.
I will give them that fact. There is some of that within this series, and I think it gets better as we keep going on. I even think this book has been better than the previous books. But
I think it's kind of just one of those product of its time situations.
There's definitely some, I can understand some annoyances with that. So
I mean, look how much weird nudity there is in this book.
Weird, uncalled for.
Yeah, I was gonna see if Gavin picked up on that on this third reread of his.
On the nudity.
The absolute absurd amount of nudity for the females.
Like,
I mean, it's for sure.
Blatant. It's so
there's like points of it I can understand. The one that really like made no sense to me was when it was like nighttime and Egwene went into the tent with like Moraine and all the other like they're just randomly, it's like a sauna, but they're just all randomly naked.
It's
for
like,
some reason.
no clothes.
Like,
so
leave the blanket on.
I'd have to go back and read. I mean, like in a sauna though, like I feel like you would like with that intention of it basically being kind of like a bath. I can understand that. The problem with it is that I'm pretty sure it's described like about their nudity is described And
That's the focal point.
yeah, that's the problem, right? Like you could that could be just like a tag thing in there, but it's when you start to focus on it, when like women become an object like that, that it does become kind of an issue.
You're reading it and you're like, okay, Jordan, move on. Move on,
Yeah,
please.
exactly. It's like
I'm getting uncomfortable.
It's like okay, this is a little too far. Now, I will say this for all those people out there who've watched multiple of my videos, I've seen that done in other books that are more recent and with girls who are not of legal age. So, and I pointed that out in a review. I'm not gonna talk about this. Okay.
What are the titles so I know what to avoid?
I got one more that
video's getting taken down.
Next one.
I got one more that's just like a short thing, like we can't defend, and then one that we can actually get into a little bit more.
Okay.
So this guy, a crinkle, he writes 1,000 pages, 4 exclamation points. Mamma Mia, save me. Well, that does it. I'm reading chapter summaries from now on. Fuck this series. Just based on the length.
I like the Mamma Mia.
That was pretty funny.
1 star. That's it.
1,000. Okay. I can't read this. It's 1,000 pages. Then
I will say he made 1,000 pages seem like 2,000 pages.
We'll get into it a little bit.
I mean, yeah,
it's not
like,
impossible to read.
It's okay. Well, like, I mean, it's. I guess that's a reason why I'm like, if I feel like I always preface it, Marcus, I think you've given me a little bit of shit for that. Of like, I always preface when I'm recommending the Wheel of Time to people, like,
right,
it's really long. Like, it's not something you can like just sit down and read. It does take a lot of time to read, but it's definitely worth the journey. All right, last one.
All right, I think this is the one that made me think about doing this segment.
Okay.
Yeah, this one. All right, so the first 20% of this book does nothing. No way in hell or high heaven are any of the women friends. Elaine, Nynaeve, and Egwene are in this circle jerk of taking satisfaction out of seeing one of the others, quote unquote, put in their place, or feeling like they're so superior to the others. I wish they, plus Fail and Avienda, were dead. The book would have moved so much faster and seemed far more meaningful. That's the first paragraph.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's start with that then, because like there's a lot to break down there. First off, I can agree that the beginning, and I think we'll get into this, but the beginning of the book is slow for sure. I agree with you. It does a lot of setup work, which is kind of needed because the element of the series I feel like changes in this book. It's not the same as the first 3, which are very much contained. This one has, I feel like, a lot more flowing parts.
Yeah.
But killing off all of the female characters...
All of them. I wish they were dead.
Highly disagree.
Is highly disagreeable. And, like, I can understand there's definitely some, like, rivalry between, like, the Elaine, Nynaeve, and Egwene. But, like, I kind of like Avienda, and I really like Fael.
Yeah.
Oh, I love those two. Those are my favorite.
Those two are great.
Female characters.
I think Fael's one of my favorite characters in this book.
I had one problem with her, but we'll get to it later.
We'll get to that.
And this is written by a woman as well for review, by the way, for context.
I mean, okay. Up to this point, like, I think this is the book where female characters start getting some actual agency and personality compared to the previous 3. Because the previous 3 were really bad, but like, they do get better from here, but I feel like this is the point where it's like he's like starting to figure out how to write females, but I definitely think that Jordan had a problem writing women characters.
Yeah.
So I can't, like, there are elements to that I can understand.
All right, here's the next paragraph of this. What is up with this man's fixation on the idea that women control men? And given that, why is he still so obsessed with relationships? They add nothing to the story and distract from the world building and action sequences. No, Perrin, I actually don't give a flying duck. She meant fuck, but she's crazy. About Fael while I'm trying to figure out the meaning of the battle. No, Elaine, in no way did you lay your heart out at Rand's feet. Like, seriously, even in their late teenage teenage age, nobody writes contradictory love letters and coyly assume it's so obvious.
Has she met high schoolers? Because I would disagree with that one. Now, I think that the miscommunication. I actually think in this book there is like elements of the miscommunication that is actually does work for the book, and I don't think it's just men thinking women control everything. Because there's plenty of times where like it's the reverse as well. Like there's definitely plays on both sides. That's like the women think that men are like doing things that they're not actually doing, and the men think that women are doing things that they aren't actually doing. And with the relationships meaning nothing to this book, I don't know what the fuck book she's reading.
I don't
Like-
know where.
Like some of the relationships, like I definitely think that Rand's relationship with Elaine in this book is not well flushed out. It just kind of
Not
is
really.
there.
It just kind of happens.
But Fail and Perrin's relationship is like a pivotal part of their characters now.
it's so good. That
So-
is so good.
Okay, next part.
I mentioned this in a review for a prior book, but this man really needs to A, learn new adjectives, and B, learn how not to overuse or abuse adjectives. Braids is that the only hairstyle he knows. Frowns, sniffs, and other passive-aggressive, like, mean girl attitude can be found on every other page. Maybe every page. And rosebud mouth equals evil woman. That's it.
Doesn't-
That's the end of the
isn't-
I
review.
believe we've,
There's some truth to that.
I
Isn't
believe we've
a-
leveled this criticism at every other book before. So
That's why I picked this one out. There's some
Yeah.
truth to it.
There's
but
some
also
good
Yeah.
stuff. There's
ridiculous.
some good stuff.
like
I
that's
mean,
pretty. Yeah,
It isn't Elaine described with a rosebud mouth too, though?
I think Nynaeve is too.
Like I can understand. There's definitely times where like this is a problem with all writers is they get the things stuck in their head that they keep rewriting and
Don't let go.
it doesn't come out in editing, which it might have just been this might have just needed one more revision through. But
Yeah,
like I mean
for sure.
Sanderson does that too. Like Marcus, wasn't it you complaining about like how like you're so sick of hearing the same curses in Stormlight over and over and over and over again?
Yes, because there's like 4 curses and that's it.
It's kind of the
And
same with
I was-
this.
Yeah, no,
It's
I'm
exact
getting
same
there with
curse.
this too. It's the same thing, like light and storm, basically.
Ma-
in
and
Stormlight.
Matt's always like, burn me like 6 times in a row
Yeah.
Burn
for
you,
like
Rand.
everything.
Every time. Burn
No,
you.
there's definitely points where it's like, yeah,
you,
we
Rand.
could. I mean, when you have 1,000 pages, those things are gonna happen.
And 14 books.
And 14
I mean,
books.
you're going to use the same stuff over
Yeah.
and over again. I
Well,
also thought it was interesting. Nynaeve, always when it's Nynaeve's perspective on a new woman, she always describes them as being ugly. She always
Really?
says that they're ugly. There's never like, wow, she's an or it's attractive for her age type of thing. Like Nynaeve just like, nope, everyone's ugly other than me and my friends. I started picking up on that. I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of funny.
it's interesting.
Because Nynaeve's judgy AF.
Yes.
But we know this.
No, I feel like there's a little bit of truth to that, but I also think that there's a little bit of. I'm wondering on the time, and I wish I knew this, but I'm wondering about the time of publication between the last book and this book.
I think it was only a year.
If I remember right.
Because
I
if
remember looking
I
it
thought
up
the first
before.
like 4 or 5 books came out really, really fast.
I know the last 3 came out a while after the end of the 11th, but that's because Jordan passed away and Sanderson took it over, which there was that gap of trying to find a new writer to finish out the series and stuff like that.
The Shadow Rising came out in 92. Dragon Reborn came out in 91. Almost exactly a year and a month apart. Actually.
So, to give context to the other side of the argument for this, I can understand that point, but if you're dropping 1,000-page book every single year,
Oh yeah, you're shoving shit in.
you are flying through these as fast as you can, and you are probably not getting a lot of time to revise. Because that is a short deadline to turn around books like that. That's like,
Hey, then we got George R. R. Martin on the opposite spectrum.
yeah, well,
Like
I
a word a
15
year.
years.
yeah, who knows if Game of Thrones is ever gonna be finished? But okay, all right, let's get started with pros and cons like we always do. You know what?
Should we do our cons and then end with positives?
Yeah, let's.
After
I
all of
usually
that.
like to go with positives first, but since we've already been to the 1-star reviews and we've kind of given some back and forth, let's do cons first. Logan, con.
Um, as the other two, I'm sure will concur. Beginning starts off a bit slow. The first, like 15 to 18 chapters. I mean, a little bit's going on, and you kind of have the excitement of like the evil bubbles or whatever at the beginning. That's kind of interesting.
And the fight.
Obviously, that doesn't really. Well, I guess was it decided that that was what happened in Ruidian too, or was it not entirely clear?
Yes, that is what happens with Rodion.
Okay. But I hated how those first couple chapters were so long, like when there was clear divisions where they could have split them into like shorter chapters. That's kind of nitpicky, but the other things I hated how for like the first half of the story, like Fael and Perrin like just bitching at each other and like just acting like teenagers. That was super annoying. Hated that. And then I think I had one other thing. I'm trying to think of what it was. Yeah, just I mean, Nynaeve, you kind of see her improve a little bit by the end, but I'm so over Nynaeve just constantly being angry and like her needing to be angry to channel like being used as a plot device and like just in general. I'm annoyed about that. But I'm hoping based on how things went with how do they say it in the audiobook? Aegianin? Is that her name?
Eggianen.
Aegianin?
Yes,
I was just
Aegianin.
in my head I was saying Aegianin, but yeah. Anyway,
Aegianin. Yeah, Aegianin. How's it? Riker, did you listen to part of it?
I listened to all of it.
Okay, yeah, Aegion is how they say it in the book, and I mean it doesn't matter. It's fantasy, okay. For everyone out there who's like, this is how you pronounce this name, or this is how you pronounce this name. It's fantasy. Fantasy names are basically whatever you want it to be. That's just the nature of complicated naming conventions. Anyway, that's my PSA on naming fantasy. Like,
yeah, because they're all super weird.
Even if you listen to the audiobooks from the beginning, like the two narrators have different ways of pronouncing names. Until like later in the series, they flip, like until they get like probably the book, maybe this book, but starting like this and a little bit further, they say things differently. And so there's, if you can't have two professional narrators pronouncing the same way, we're just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, that was rough at the beginning.
Yeah, because then you're like, wait, what? What's going on?
Who the hell is this? Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that's kind of just like her anger. I'm hoping now the way they kind of set it up with Aegianin at the end there that is now this is like the beginning of her improving and learning how to control her emotions more.
Fingers crossed.
Marcus, con.
We kind of touched on it a little bit already with the ridiculous amount of nudity with the female characters, but I kind of show that to the time that it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it just every chapter felt like he just needed to get that in there. Like someone's nude, someone's half naked, whatever. It just kind of was like, okay, this is distracting. Mm-hmm. The one thing that actually started to grind on me a bit was Jordan's writing style in this book, where very important things or very important decisions seem to happen off page so that the reader doesn't know about it or we have to react to it happening. For example, Rand's plan that the entire book, he's like, my plan. And it's like, oh, it's supposed to be a big reveal. I rather have known what his plan is to see him try to manipulate people to get to the position he needs to get to. Mm-hmm. I think that would have been more interesting. Other examples being the entire book. I would like to talk about the Rand thing in a second, but
other one
Yeah.
that you have an example of?
I thought the ending with Nynaeve and Elaine is the same kind of thing. It was a really rushed kind of conclusion.
Definitely.
Where all of a sudden we were just like, oh, the males, they're Tom and the thief catcher found where you need to go. All right, let's infiltrate the palace. All right, we're infiltrating the palace. Okay, there's already plans, like we've already talked outside of but we're reading, so we know, like they know what's happening, but we don't. And I don't like that too much. I don't like just being dragged and having to react to what is happening.
Yeah, it did seem to me like it was almost like like Robert Jordan realized, or like maybe the publisher even could have been like, no, you got to keep this under 1,000 pages, and like he's like, well, I got to flush out all the men's stuff. Like where can we cut some corners? And like he's like, okay, we can still make this like work with the women, but just like cut out some of the meat, you know.
Female
that's
parts
kind of what
got hit hard with that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
With the Rand plan, I think I personally am okay with not, like, I understand what you mean, because like it doesn't, with us knowing the plan ahead of time, it does give us a little bit more of that tension built on, oh, what's gonna happen. And then like traditional, like if you're thinking about like traditional / Sanderson and like Will White, who we just have been reading Cradle,
right,
like those setups do tend to leave to that tension of like, is this going to succeed, where you can play off of the like it fails here, it succeeds here, and stuff like that. The reason I'm kind of okay with it here is because I don't feel like Rand is necessarily the focal character of even that. Like, he is definitely an important character in that part, but I almost feel like Matt is the focal character of that arc, and we get to see all of Matt's decisions and choices. But I kind of like the like, we have a hint of what Rand's kind of up to, and I feel like the reveal of like him trapping them, like him playing the Forsaken against each other and knowing kind of what they're gonna do, is a little bit interesting to me. It's different. It's not the same as what we're used to in normal storytelling. It is a little bit of cheating corners, because then you don't have to worry about setting up as much stuff. But I kind of like the dig there and the reveal. And there's also an element of which I think is really portrayed with Matt, but I feel like there's an element of like madness in this book with Rand that I'm kind of okay with it kind of being off the wall a little bit more. All right. So, Riker, you're going to respond to my point before
Yes,
technical
you said
difficulties.
that, the madness of Rand, you were starting to kind of feel it. I'm kind of with you on that one.
Like, that's part of the reason I was a bit more okay with us not getting as much of him, is like, it's kind of like the reveal of like his mind is like kind of not necessarily
alien.
all there. Yeah, it's a little weird,
like
getting a little
like
weird.
Foreign. I'm with you on that one.
But it's definitely not a traditional way of storytelling. I can understand that. So there are elements to it that are good and elements that are bad. It definitely doesn't like. It definitely feels like something he's like, I got to get this done as fast as possible, so I have to make some decisions, and that felt like a decision that he made, which I still think it works. It's just not necessarily it's not as deep as it could be.
I also feel like the White Tower was kind of rushed too, because it was all of a sudden like, boom, the coup is happening. The Armland seat is stilled with her second hand,
Lyanna.
Yep. And I thought that would be a great moment to like show to us like what the Aes Sedai are capable of.
Well, like watching
more darker circumstances,
watching through like Min or Gawain's eyes through that fight through the tower would be really interesting.
It would have been really cool.
Even seeing it from the Armland seat's perspective of like being tortured basically, or stilled.
Yeah. And
I feel like we would hate them so much more right now.
Like
I feel like
there in that moment.
Yeah.
Of it happen. No, I agree.
Yeah.
There's just a bunch of stuff like that. Like, why didn't you leave this in and then cut a bunch of other pointless stuff out?
I feel like that's it definitely feels like and I feel like nowadays it's a little bit better, where I think writers are given a little bit more time to work, or they have like better support structures. So like, you know, like how many times does Sanderson write through a book before he publishes it? Like 4 times, I think, at least.
At least.
So like whereas like this, I think that this is probably a second, maybe a third draft, where like elements of that probably got lost just because the publisher's like, you need to be releasing a book every single year.
Right.
And like that's the same thing with Harry Potter. Harry Potter does that too, where there's definitely elements of it that could have been better if given more time to revise, and editors being like, hey, look, this is great, but we need more detail here, we need more detail here, we need this fleshed out or written a little bit better. It's just kind of like it's one of those things that kind of sucks about publication, is sometimes it can be kind of like a two-edged sword.
Right.
Riker, Con.
I'm gonna agree with Marcus on it, but to a point. On Rand's plan being foreign to us might be a bit of a detriment, in that only because I have read through the first book of Cradle, and that the main character is literally plan everything out. And it's done so masterfully in that one. Like, he more like for instance, I'm going to use like the Wasp spirit plan, where he puts it under the stage.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, like, they don't exactly tell you that, like, what exactly is going to happen. Like, you can visualize it in your mind and be like, oh, okay, I see what he's going to do with that. And with Rand's plan in this book, after it being revealed, there are hints sprinkled throughout the story as to what it is, like very specific things that he focuses on that he uses. And there's a specific example.
Good.
Oh, the specific example I've got is when they're in Roidion, and he sees that, like, the 2 figures that connect to those statues. I forget where exactly the statues are at, but they were shown earlier.
We only know where the male statue is right
the
now,
male
which is in Kyrian, I believe.
Yes. So Rand focused on that, and when I listened through it, I noticed that. I was like, that was a weird thing for him to make mention of, and then they just move on. Turns out that was a part of the plan. Rand knew what it was the entire time. So I'd say my biggest con is a little bit of missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to exactly tell us the plan, but more showcasing more elements of it and sprinkling it maybe a little bit more throughout the book.
Giving a little bit more blunt foreshadowing instead of, like, because there's also hints of, like, I need to do something that they'll never expect.
Yes. And boy, howdy did he.
Right? I guess that's kind of what I don't like. I want to be able to think it through and
you want to be able to be like, oh, I put the puzzle pieces together, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Whereas this is definitely,
you have the pieces, and you're like, I can't figure it out though.
It's
and
one
then
of,
it all comes together.
I mean, it's one of those things where, like, there's the foreshadowing, but it's not really puzzle pieces. It's just like, it's hints of, he knows what he's planning on, but we don't know what he's planning on. Yeah. So
it's also because we're in his head.
Yeah.
Like, we get his perspective,
which lends back to that him feeling kind of alien, kind of foreign, like, because we aren't in his head, even though it's from his perspective. We aren't in Rand's head at that point in time. We don't get as much of Rand this book. We're starting to get more characters. Okay, pros. We'll do it reverse order. Riker. Good God, this book opens up
like a gaping anus.
Like, yes, hot dog down a hallway. The first I can't cut that out of the video, guys.
Woo! Believe it.
I don't know how to do that. I don't have that kind of... Oh, God. Okay, you just
make
keep going.
Go down, and then go back up.
No, I thought this book starts off with a bang. I was so excited. Yes, it did have this, like, 15 chapters where it was just kind of but then, oh my God, after that 15th chapter, it goes off again. This book was really exciting. That was the biggest pro. It was the most exciting book so far. You guys might have heard me say this a time or two, but this is the book I feel like starts the Wheel of Time, because after this is a very different style than I feel like what we've gotten up to this point. So much. Where, like, the characters, like, this is the thing that we've been complaining about for multiple books of, stop bringing your characters together for no reason. Leave them where they are and let them do their things that they are working on right now. We don't need to see them all in one place at one time.
And that's kind of why I say this is kind of the first one, because we actually are getting like multiple plots going on at the same time that impact different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus, pro.
For me, I think Perrin actually took the book for me. I think he was fantastic, and now is far and above probably my favorite character at this point. That whole thing, once they get past the ways and him and Fael finally make up, then it gets really good.
Mm-hmm.
Before that was kind of annoying. And then learning about the Aiel culture, actually, I really liked them.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of people say that they're just the Tomans from Dune, I don't know. They're really fascinating and cool to me still.
I believe we said last book, like during our last book discussion, that
Fremens.
we really wanted to learn more about the Aiel.
Yes.
And
yeah.
Boy, did we.
Yeah, people say that they're just Fremens from Dune.
I mean,
which I'm like, I don't care. That's cool. I want more Fremens.
Fremens are cool.
I've never, I mean, I watched the Dune movie. I have not read Dune as of this recording, although I intend to. Writing generally influences other writing, so it's likely Jordan probably read Dune and it probably influenced the Aiel at some point, so that's not surprising. But I'm sure if we go back and look, who wrote Dune?
Frank Herbert.
Frank Herbert, yeah.
I'm sure Frank Herbert took them from somewhere else. They're not. I highly doubt that they are entirely a culture of his design from scratch. I'm sure that there are elements that he took from other cultures, because that's what most writers do, is they take elements and they create something. So
right.
There's, I would say, inspired by, not just taken, likely, even if I read Dune. But I haven't read Dune, so I mean that's also coloring my perspective. Logan, positive.
I agree pretty much entirely with what Marcus said. Honestly, like Perrin was a big highlight. Really enjoyed all of his sections once like him and Fael got over their teenage crap. The specific segment of like Matt and Rand like going into Rudian, I love that. That was possibly my favorite section of the book. I don't know what it was, but like just everything was so epic. It seemed like the like stakes were really kicking in, and like there was something about like the historical aspect of it, just like flashbacking all this stuff was really cool. And it was really interesting tying that then in later on at the end with Lanfear when Asmodean calls her what Mierin, I think was her name, is what it was. And then I was like, wait, that sounds really familiar. And I would jump back to the section with Rand going in through the columns and like seeing the past history and stuff. And she's like in that. They reference her while she's still an Ice.
I never picked that up.
Yeah, she's like the Aes Sedai that they're talking about in like the final flashback. And then that's part of like one of my questions, like with Shoram, whatever that, like it made me think of the Traveler from Destiny. But it's like a big egg thing or whatever in the sky, and like they just talk about how like a section of it shoots off, and then like this black fire shooting out of it, and then it just like explodes, and there's just like raining destruction and everything. And they talk about how the whichever character it was, I forget his name, that they were following in that specific segment, he's like, yeah, the Aes Sedai or like Mierin Sedai or whatever, are talking about how she had discovered a new way to like, I can't remember, was it split or combine the power?
It was combine the powers.
Yeah,
so that way they wouldn't be separate anymore.
Right.
You're super loud for some reason.
Me?
Logan.
Oh.
I think he's, I mean, it's not too bad for me.
Okay.
But
yeah, me.
But yeah, that all that stuff was really cool, and like all the angreals and terangreals and everything like outside around the tree, like Rudian in general was just really cool.
That's a chapter that I want to go back and reread or re-listen to, because that's like something I remember listening to the first time, going like, "Oh, this is really cool," and like I like these characters that are suddenly just happening. I have no idea what the hell's happening at all.
It's one of those moments where Jordan shows off his world building talent. because
like,
there
good
is
characterization
well
as well.
Yeah, there's great characters, but you can see there's very clearly a well-designed history that because with all these references to other people, like he's very clearly keeping track of times in his book, which I mean, Wheel of Time makes sense. But it's one of those times where it's definitely like, as a writer, it makes me think of like one of those times if you do all this background world building of like what's happened up to this point, which has led to X reasons and stuff like that. It's like, I finally get to show the reader all this work I've put in that that they likely would never get to see if he didn't do it in this very unique way.
Right, and like you said, he showed off that immediately. I was attached to those characters from the past that I don't even know their names. I just immediately was like, "Oh, I'm really interested in these characters." Which,
Yeah,
I was like, "Why doesn't he do that for his main characters?"
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that I don't know. I think his main characters have been getting significantly better after book like 2, 3. Like they've just slowly been getting better and better. I actually had a discussion with this on one of the comments of when I did. Because I posted my single, the Eye of the World review, and I had a discussion with a person about characters and stuff like that, saying like I personally think that they're great over the course of the entire series, but it takes a little, like the first couple books, it's like let's get a little more depth into these characters, please.
Right.
Do Nynaeve next, Jordan, please, for the love of
we
God.
need some backstory on why she hates men so fucking much.
Why she hates everyone.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess I could do my pro and con. I mean, you guys basically
Actually, I'm kind of interested. Do you remember the first time you read this book versus now? And like if your rating would be different?
Oh yeah. I still think the first time I read this book, this is definitely where things started to pick up for me. Like I really enjoyed book 3 the first time I went through, but I've definitely enjoyed the earlier books significantly more on this read through, even as opposed to my second read through, just because there's more like I have more context for what's going on. And that's one thing that I think Jordan does very well, is that there is like I mean, I'm sure there's plot holes if I dug deep enough, which I'm never a person to like, I'm not going to go and like micro dig for plot holes and stuff like that. But there's like all these elements that like play out throughout the entire book, like which we'll get into with like different prophecies and things that are going on, that I'm like, oh, I know what all this means now.
Right. That's like probably the best part of Wheel Time is the reread.
Yeah.
I feel like
the reread is
on all that small stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely really elements, and like even like stuff that like Logan mentioned about the Mieran thing. Honestly, I didn't pick that up. And now that you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, why wouldn't that be? But like, it's such a like small detail that I didn't pay attention to. But like, there's so many of those sprinkled throughout the entirety of all the series that it's like you could never pick up every single one of them, even on a third read through.
Right. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, It's a matter of like likely Jordan kind of knew what his ending about what his ending would be when he started the series, because that's kind of a thing that a lot of people do. Like you have scenes that you write towards, and it's very clear he took the time to sprinkle those tidbits in that as we get further in, they end up paying off for us and being like, oh, I remember this, or I remember that.
Right. Yeah. For us, the first time through, we're just like,
yeah, it does. It's yeah. I definitely on the first time through, there was definitely more sections that I was like,
well,
yeah. It's like, how long has this chapter been going on for?
Yeah, like even the first, like I totally get what you guys mean. The first stuff is really slow. Like the first chapter is all about other characters' perspectives, right? Like it's basically a giant prologue of like, we get from here, we're in this character's head, we're in this character's head. Like we bounce all over the world and see all these characters that aren't main characters, they're just side characters. They give us context on what's going on throughout the world besides just where Rand's at. And like for you guys, you have probably almost no idea what any of that means. It's just like, cool.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just like, oh, I know what's going on here, or I know what's being set up here. So like the first like section is definitely like slow, but there's so many things that are like being set up in that section, and it's partially slow because he has to break the characters apart and start their new plot lines.
Right.
So, all right, let's move on because we're already 47 minutes in, minus a couple minutes for technical difficulties, but we're pretty far in already. Okay, Men in the White Tower. So let's just go through the entirety of Men in the White Tower because I think we should just. I like, Marcus, how you split these up. I think we should just do plot lines since they're kind of divided out pretty well. So we'll do Men in the White Tower basically entirely separate. We already kind of said that a downside about it is we didn't really get to see the Battle of the White Tower, like the rebellion basically. How did you guys feel overall with like Swan and Min and stuff like that? Do you even really care what's going on there at all?
Yeah.
It was just
I do, but again, it kind of felt like how things wrapped up with the girls in Tanchico, you know? It just seemed like that was like thrown in there. Like it almost felt to me like Jordan was like, oh, I need to set this up for like the next book or whatever it's going to come up. And he's like, oh, let's just sprinkle it in here real quick.
Like,
and then like we don't really get to expand on it. It feels like it's just like thrown out as like, oh, hey, by the way, you need to know this because this is going to get referenced, you know, next book or whatever.
Do we want to Oreo cookie this? Have like bad, good,
It
bad?
doesn't matter. We can talk about bad and good with this. There's a lot of stuff.
Vargas, do you want to go first?
I feel like, yeah, sure. I feel like this is supposed to be like I mean, obviously it's a huge event that happens in the world, but I feel like we just don't feel the weight of it because of that reason. Of like we didn't get much of the White Tower. We don't see them really interact that much with the world yet. So it's like, oh, cool, the White Towers has a new leader. Okay.
Well, it's not directly impacting the characters we care about right now.
Right, but you feel like there'd just be more like impact on the world itself of you going like, oh my god, they don't have the support of these Aes Sedai anymore, which they didn't to begin with. So it's like, okay.
Didn't change
I suppose it's also like it's a little unclear of like, are Elida and the others, are they like part of the Black Aja, or like are they still the good guys but they're just like ousting Swan? Like we don't really know.
Right.
So
I know.
Right. Which I'm just to the point where like I don't know if I care that much yet because we haven't gotten much of it. I think Reich and I are gonna agree because we were texting back and forth when I got to this point of when they break them out of the imprisonment. I felt like that was just such a dumb rushed segment of like Min got the cook to help her and they beat the guard over the head with a ladle or something, like a rolling pin.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
knocked him out.
It was dumb.
I was just like, okay, sure.
I did feel like Min's like the reasoning for why Min was in the tower felt really weak, and like
It was so weird.
he could have come up with something a little better than that, because like even if it's like, oh, these two men are fighting over me and I don't know who to pick, like how long is like really, like how you can resolve that pretty quickly, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only other part that really like stood out to me that I laughed was when she showed up with like a letter from Moraine to give the Armelin seat to tell her that Rand has Kalendor. It was said in a way that was supposed to be like cryptic, but it said the shepherd has the sword. And I'm like,
He kept calling himself a shepherd.
Literally anyone would know what the fuck she's talking about.
No,
It's like
Yeah,
supposed to
but
be,
a
like,
lot
the
of them don't know that
cryptic thing.
Rand is the Dragon Reborn yet.
True.
It
I
was just
laughed.
such-
Logan-
I thought that part was
I
funny.
Logan, you are actually a little loud, so you might want to turn down a little bit. So
I was like, oh, Moraine's making a joke. That's funny.
Yeah, I was like,
well, see, so we the reader, like that's very obvious to us. But yeah, a lot of the tower has no idea who Rand is. They have no idea about his backstory, even if they know about him now because he's taking Kalendor. They have no clue like about his past as much as like Moraine and Swan do. right? So like,
Right.
yeah, I think it could have been a little bit better cryptic wise, but
Yeah, I don't think
Uh,
she could have figured out anything better for Min Logan. She can't figure out what the shepherd is. I just
So-
laughed at that. I was just like, what?
I will say that you guys are kind of right on the money with this is setup. This is definitely not supposed to
right.
be. It's a plot line being sprinkled in that will pay off much later. And like it'll be sprinkled, like you'll get little like sprinkles of it throughout the entirety of the series coming up, but like the payoff for this isn't really until like I think it's book 8 or book 9, maybe even book 10.
Jesus.
So we got some time before we get to all like. There's definitely more stuff that's more interesting, but like the final payoff is not close to the end of the series. So
Right.
there's a lot of stuff. It's basically of, hey, these characters are doing this, cool. Over here.
Yeah, pretty much, and that's why I feel like I don't care because it's such a. Meh. All right, Riker, what do you think?
So there are, because I mean, don't get me wrong, the things I'm about to get into, I completely agree with you that there's certain things that happen that completely like deaden the impact, right? Like Siwon's, what the fuck do they call
Being
it? Stilling. Yeah, I felt like that was a horrible moment to skip over.
Yeah, that's definitely a missed opportunity there.
But there were two things in this part that had me enraptured the entire time. One, it says in the prophecy of the dragon that, or like one of the prophecies, that the White Tower will fall.
Yeah.
And I was not expecting that to happen in this book, or at least to start in this book. And I feel like that's what this is the setup for. Like, I was like, oh my god, this is it. Like, holy shit, it's actually happening. I was really excited about that and pumped throughout this entire thing. Because I'm just like, oh god, what happens from here? And then second, Logain. I am so excited to see what happens with that. Like, what does she mean by glory? Is it a good kind of glory? Is he going to go back to being kind of a warlord kind of glory? Like, I am so intrigued by his character.
I'd say that's a missed opportunity. Like, she could have talked to Logain instead of the two pretty boys instead, and like we would have gotten so much more.
We did really. We need Galad and Gawain to be set up in those because they
like,
are important to multiple plot lines throughout the story.
I'm sure they are,
especially with Galad being like wrapped in light. I have a theory as to what's going to happen with him.
Make your predictions.
We'll wait for predictions
well,
of that.
We do get the point in those
White Cloak
chapters where he's reading the book that inspired the Order of the White Cloaks. Yeah. So, and he's talking to White Cloaks.
Which I was assuming the tower was going to fall by White Cloaks, like that, like with
That's
how they're surrounding Tarvalin. But no, it's coming from the inside. I really liked it. I thought, I know there are parts that deadened it a little bit, but I still like this part a lot. It took me completely by surprise.
Well, and it's one of those things where there's a good element about it too. I mean, like, yeah, there's definitely stuff that like it could have missed opportunities, I would say, with like the stilling and stuff like that. But it's also this piece is off the board for you, Rand. You no longer have allies in the White Tower that are kind of holding them back from coming after you. Because that's what Juan and Moraine were doing. It was like, all right, let's distract, like let's distract and pull people away from Rand and push him towards other people so that he can fulfill what he needs to do. And they wanted to take, there's that like Moraine's like you're going too fast type thing, and it's like, oh baby, this train is moving and it's not stopping.
It's
like
not
you
gonna
cannot
stop.
control how fast destiny takes its place. And there's like an element of like, you're not ready for this. And he's like, well, nothing I can do about it.
Right. I feel like he didn't even think that the White Towers were the White Tower was helping him at all. So that's also a missed opportunity to me.
Well,
like
it doesn't seem like much of a loss to him that he knew.
Yeah, it's a loss. It's a loss that we know, but he doesn't. And I think that's fine because like Moraine's not the most forthcoming of people. Is the best way to say that.
What books have I been reading? I thought she was the most forward.
Was, I feel, until this book.
So she's not the most she's not the most forthcoming of people, right? And so there's an element of like mistrust there already between them. and that I think is where Rand's distrust of Aes Sedai comes from in the first place. Is like everyone I've run into has just been trying to manipulate me from the start, and I like that, and we'll get into this, but like he starts pushing back against that in this book a
He does.
lot.
Yeah,
Real
I did
hard.
like that. That
And
was-
I like
that
that
was
a
cool.
lot.
Okay, so let's go to the tier stuff. So I'm gonna skip over most of the bubbles of evil stuff. Those play in later, obviously.
Yeah, the only thing I will say about that, I thought it was interesting that the things that fought them are all the things that the characters are fighting against in their
Yep.
head in general. Perrin with the axe, Matt with gambling, and Rand with himself.
Yep.
With the mirrors.
Those
And
are
It was
just-
definitely poetic.
I thought that was
yeah,
cool.
Also-
those are intended to be like that for sure.
Also, what happened with Matt wasn't visible to other people, but the other two it was.
No, they saw it. They just didn't want to admit that they saw it.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
did they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because they're like, no, I didn't use it. And he's like, yes, you did. He's like, no, what are you talking about?
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically like
I thought that too at first.
it's basically like we don't want to. We're gonna bury our heads in the sand and
Yeah.
pretend this isn't happening around us right now.
If they don't acknowledge it, it didn't happen.
Exactly.
That makes more sense.
Okay.
The King of Spades just
So-
stabbed me.
So actually, let's go to. I like the second point. Let's go to Rand's Taviran poll. What do you guys think about that? Because that was definitely like I think Marcus, you brought up earlier in the series in one of our earlier discussions that you didn't like the use of Taviran as much because it's basically what it really is to fill in a lot of plot holes.
Right.
But in this book, it starts to play an element on the characters as well and the characters around them.
Right, which I liked seeing the physical like implications on Matt, where he can't even say that he's leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought it was strange, weird, interesting, and I liked actually like getting into it a little bit more to show it's not just Jordan being like Taviran,
Yeah.
luck.
There's
But-
this is when it starts to get flushed out a little bit more, where it's like
right.
there's literal stuff that Rand's basically not consciously but subconsciously not allowing his friends to do.
Right. Which then I'm like, well, why was Perrin able to leave? Like that, then that's like what the next thing plays in my head is like, well, then why is Perrin able to just like, see it?
Well, and
It
there
was because of the explosion, right? Not the explosion, but like him putting the sword into
Tear.
into that like hall, like the earthquake that rocked it. Like that's when Perrin decided like I gotta go now. Else I won't go.
So there, I'll say this, and it kind of explains it in the book of basically. Rand even points this out a little bit, where Moraine is specifically watching Matt because she knows that he's the one that's going to dip. If anyone gets a chance to dip, it's gonna be Matt. But she trusts Perrin. And so the Taviran pool is basically one of them needs to go back home to deal with what's at home. Rand can't do it, and he knows he can't do it because he's got bigger things to worry about. And so it's basically like destiny playing its hand of like Matt's the one that wants to leave, but he can't leave because he's the bad choice for this job. So Perrin is the one that's actually like the one that needs to like the chosen one of this element of the book.
So the poll focuses more on Matt to keep him there, so Perrin can.
The poll focuses because Matt has to go to Rhoideon.
Yeah.
So the poll focuses on who needs to be where at what times to fulfill what prophecies, basically.
Yeah.
Right. And actually, I liked the little description. It was just like a short little thing of we got Moraine's perspective, and she looks over at Matt and thinks in her head, like, why can't my spies keep track of him? I just love the little character things like that. Like, Jordan does such a good job of those little things where you're just like, that's actually awesome.
Well, there's like that. There's that. And then there's like the stuff with Tom, too, that she gets into of like.
Yeah. Excited to talk about
we'll get to that. Actually, let's talk about. Let's talk about that now because it's a little bit smaller point. I want to get into the other stuff that I've got here for the big question, but like, how did you guys like that Moraine and Tom scene?
Oh, it was so good. So
It
much
was-
tension, so much revealed about Tom that it's kind of like hinted at, but it just fully gets ripped out into the light now. And it's just like, oh my god, Tom's a fucking assassin. Like, it was fucking crazy. I loved it. Everything with Tom Maryland's good. This includes it and actually makes it even better.
It's very interesting that we're getting to basically see an element of the game of houses played between those two characters who are kind of both masters of the game of houses.
It was like
Yeah.
watching Littlefinger and the Spider Viren in Game of Thrones for me. It was just like, oh.
They're both slowly revealing what they know to kind of trump the other one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
or
Like,
even just
oh, it's so good.
even just watching Tom interact with random people throughout the castle and like
Mhm.
trying to implement little like
Yeah, he's basically protecting Rand super
like, say,
indirectly.
where did the Trollocs come from? From what ship? Why wasn't
what
you know,
what
it's like all
noble
the
what
little,
noble would have done this? Or
why didn't they check the
whoops, this
barrels?
this one little note that's written perfectly in this man's hand is definitely not going to come back to play it. And then I also like tied with that is the element of when we get Rand's perspective too, of we know Tom's protecting him, but we also know Rand is starting to develop, like being taught by Tom and develop those senses of like when he starts sending people out before he leaves and he's like, yeah, be a shame if this person went and you're gonna leave your husband. Oh, don't worry, she's gonna perfectly take care of him. And then you find out that like he's doing this all intentionally, and I think that's the moment
Yeah.
of like realizing like, oh, Rand actually knows what he's doing now. Like he spent some
Again,
time.
I wish
leveling
we
up.
saw that.
Yes,
I wish we saw him like kind of come to this planned conclusion, not just being revealed and us going like, oh, okay. Like I just wish we got a little bit more like into the meat of that.
That was a story definitely written more through subtext than.
Yes.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
a very
for
it's a very subtext like story, and that's why I say this perspective mostly focuses on Matt, because like Rand stuff is kind of like all this subtext game of houses stuff that's going on that he knows that he's playing basically like 3D chess against everyone, and Matt's just like
Tom's 40.
yeah, Tom's like 7D chess. He's just like
Yeah.
he's just like well, I got this person to assassinate this person. I mean, who would have thought that this could have happened? But I think that
right?
because like so we get, which I think is the meat of this part of the book, which is the Turangriel in the basement, the doorway,
Yeah.
which we don't get to see Moraine and we don't get to see Rance,
Right.
what their answers are, and that's part of the. I think it can be good and bad. It doesn't give us as much setup, but we get to see Matt's. And that's why I say it more focuses on Matt in this book, because we get a little bit more of like his direct of what's going on. And what did
That's
you guys think of that scene specifically? We'll get into the other one when we get to that point.
What did they tell him? He's
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
marry
trying to
a
remember
He's
what-
gonna
daughter
marry
of the moons.
Daughter of the Nine Moons.
He's gonna marry the daughter of the Nine Moons. He will give up half the light of the world to save the world.
and then he has to go to Rodion.
He has to go to Rodion.
And he
or he
has to go
dies.
to Rodion or he dies. And then there's another one too.
Wasn't there something about him dying and being reborn? or
Yeah,
something like that?
he must die, and then he will die, and then he will live again.
Which
They
I
actually give him 4 answers technically.
Right.
He will marry the daughter of the Nine Moons. He has to go to
Go to
Rodion. He will live and die again, and that he has to give up half the light of the world.
Okay.
I know what
Very
all those
cryptic.
mean.
Very
This-
fun.
This is where
Very
we
odd.
get. This is like if Moraine was writing cryptically. This is cryptic.
Oh, as fuck.
Well, this is like, I mean, we see one of those come to fruition. At least I assume when he's like hung in Rodion with the other doorway.
Right. You could say he's technically
Um,
died there. Maybe.
Maybe? I don't know.
That's right. I don't
Right.
entirely know. Like, I'm
Really
not
hard
sure
to
if that
say.
counts or not.
What do you guys want me to tell you, or do you just want me to just let it slide?
Nah. Well, let's keep going.
Okay.
I just have to
you can
write it
text me.
down. You can text.
Do you? I can tell. I can
want to know
say
if that's
it.
part of the prophecy. I want to know if that's a part of it.
What is his hanging?
If that's the moment of that specific question.
Yeah, I found that part really
I don't think
confusing
it
anyway,
is.
but
Yes,
I would say no.
yes,
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Okay, so
That's the
Okay.
time where because he does die there. Rand
Right.
brings him back to life by reviving him with basically CPR.
I thought
Yeah.
that was one of his wishes to be rid of Aes Sedai, so they hung him.
we'll get-
like, oh well, yep, we did get rid of that.
We'll
that thought
get-
went through my head, but I was like, nah, they're not. Like this. Like, why is he hanging here? It can't be that.
Yeah, Matt just dies there. He's like done for the series.
He's like, he's out. He's done.
Well,
I do want to get a couple predictions on that though. Do you get what? Are there any predictions about the Daughter of the Nine Moons or about the Light of the World prophecy? Because we already know about the Roydion and dying and living again. Because those two have already come to pass.
he's gonna blow up half the sun.
I'm wondering if if he has to give up either his marriage or has to let the Daughter of the Nine Moons go because it might be the light of his world. I don't know.
That'd be interesting.
We haven't been introduced to who this person is. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
that's the hardest part.
Yeah, because we don't really have like a specific love interest for him, right? He's still kind of the player at the time.
Yep.
Dude, next
Yeah.
book, a girl's gonna introduce herself as Daughter of the Nine Moons.
They call me Nine Moons.
They call me-
This is my name.
Oh my god. That sounds
Like,
like
oh, that's his Falcon.
that sounds like Jordan.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to speculate on Nine Moons. I can't think of anything that's happened or anybody we've been introduced to that
Would show that.
like.
How many Forsaken
that
are there?
would relate to?
13
Are there
total, but
13?
there's I
Okay, never
think
mind.
at this point 3 are dead, 4 are dead, 3 or 4 are dead. Because 2 were killed in the end of the first book, and one
Right.
was
Yep.
2 were killed last
Killed it.
book, right?
And
Oh, so be.
Wait, who is the second one?
Oh yeah.
One
Alzamon and
Balzamon
Balal.
and
oh
yeah,
yeah, I
Balal
guess
were both
I
killed.
forgot about Balls.
I think that's it. Only 2.
So 4, no, because 2 were killed in the very first book too when they fight at the
at the very
the
end.
Eye of the World.
At the Eye of the World.
Yep, they killed 2 of them there
I
too.
didn't even-
the Green Man kills the one, and then
I didn't even comprehend
Ray
that
kills
those
the other
were-
one.
Yeah, those were like
Fucking
so. There's
Forsaken.
9 Forsaken left, and we know where.
We have two.
We know where we've seen
Well-
5 of them at this point.
And we
Right.
know where one is for sure.
We
I forget
know
what city he's in.
we know Samael is in Ilion, I believe.
Yeah.
We know one is in Andor. We know
One is in Tanchico.
Morgideon is in Tanchico, Lanfear and
It's wherever Rand is.
and
Asmodean.
Asmodean are both around Rand. So we're
Yeah.
missing 4. But
Does
they are
Really excited
mentioned.
to see those guys come into play.
They are mentioned throughout. They're like there's hints of them. They're just not in the. I mean, even I said Samael. What was the name?
You said Samael.
Samael is the one. I'm pretty sure Samael is the one.
He's
in-
the one in Ilion.
Yeah,
I
he's
think.
in Ilion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know he's there, but we haven't really seen him that much.
We haven't
yet.
seen him yet.
So, okay, let's go. I like this order. You put the order of like I feel like the worst to best plots.
That's what I did. that was purposeful.
So Nynaeve and Elaine.
You want to talk about the attack at all of the stone, or just?
Oh, I mean, it's basically like do you guys want to talk about it? It's basically just like the shadow
And power
spawn.
porn.
Yeah,
I like that though. I actually liked seeing the
Oh yeah, him going all out was
like the
awesome.
maximum end of the power. That was awesome.
well, and
Then we got Lizard through the thorn bush for a sword move. That was fucking something.
well, there's also I think the most important part of the attack on the stone for me is him trying to bring the kid back to life and realizing that it doesn't matter how powerful he is, he cannot cure death.
And Moraine and Lan were like, "What the fuck?"
That was a pretty good character moment for him, I'd say.
Yeah.
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 Well, because then he even it brings it back when he like has all the power later at the end of the book,
Yep.
and he's like, maybe with this I could have brought back that girl.
Right. I did like that little.
Well, and there's also
Snippet
the
back.
element of like I don't want to keep destroying everything I touch. I want to create something.
He wants to be able to save somebody so that way he knows that it isn't like an evil power.
Yeah.
Can I ask who is talking to these Trollocs and convincing them to puppeteer in the middle of town in book 2 and hide in barrels in a ship in this book?
So
get
don't they
into
say
it.
that due to the link with a Midrital?
Murdral, yeah.
Myrdral?
Midrital. A Myrdral that they
Yeah,
can kind of
loose
like
Theron.
command them.
Yeah,
Loose Theron.
Murdral can basically force Trollocs to do things.
So I'm wondering if that's what.
Well,
happened here.
and the Forsaken, it's said that one of the Forsaken, I think Samael, is attacking Rand basically with them. So he's forcing the Murdral to force the Trollocs to attack.
Yeah, Lanfear mentioned that at Samael's
Yeah, because Lanfear takes control of some of them at a point in the battle
They
where
start
she
fighting
saves.
each other.
Yeah, where they start fighting each other, and Rand's like, "What the?" And then you
like,
realize
"What
it's
the fuck?"
it's Lanfear like helping him out.
Just would have loved to see that conversation. Hey, Trollocs, see these barrels?
Get
I
in
need you to hide in here.
It's basically
Don't worry, killing later.
Yeah. It's basically like Trollocs are supposed to be like creatures of like violence, but also kind of cowardice, and so like the Murdral are like terrifying. I mean, have you
I saw
seen
the trailer?
Have you seen the trailer?
I didn't see that.
So they're kind of like, and they're semi-intelligent. So I would say they're intelligent, actually.
Yeah, they're intelligent.
So they're not as like, I don't feel like they're like a full consciousness, but they definitely have like thoughts and stuff like that, and can kind of manipulate even humans.
They're smooth brain.
Okay.
They are lamp.
I do like though that each of the boys now I think has killed a Myrdral.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh yeah.
back at the very beginning, the first book, like they were almost the big bads of the book for the most part.
Yeah.
Like we thought that they killed Tom. They're these like expert sword masters, and now all three boys have killed one. Like I think that's a great way of showing how much they've grown so far.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even like, I mean, that shows Tom too in the first book. Like, yeah, he took some hits, but like, he basically killed it and got away.
Yeah, he was badass.
Yeah, so it's kind of
Did he kill it? I thought it just stabbed him in the leg and it ran after Rand, and then
I think
like,
I think he wounded it.
he definitely slowed it down.
Yeah, he slowed it
thought.
significantly.
I do like that his wound is
It's
lingering.
still bothering him.
Oh yeah,
I like to see the implications.
it never
of fights
it
and stuff
never
like that.
goes away. It's forever stuck with him because it's too late for him. Like even Moraine says it, where it's too late to be healed now.
To heal.
Yeah.
Right. I like that.
Okay, so let's go.
Consequences.
Let's go to Nynaeve.
We'll get to those later.
We'll go to Elaine and Nynaeve and Tanchico.
If I was reading this, I would have skipped these fucking chapters. If I didn't listen to it, I would have probably skipped this. I was so fucking
there's
bored.
elements.
Nynaeve's such a bitch.
Oh my
Sorry.
god. Oh,
It's
I just
just-
remembered the fucking carriage ride. Do you remember the carriage ride to the boat? He's like, "Go faster, we need to get there," and it's like,
Why
"Slow
is it
down,
so
it's too bumpy." I don't know. He's doing what you fucking told him to do.
And then Elaine, Elaine trying to do damage control and basically like, sorry
so
for
gold.
her.
Yeah.
He's a
Here's
really
money.
nice person, though.
You know your characters are bad when your characters in universe are apologizing for their behavior.
So with
Fucking word.
there are elements. I think that one of the best parts about this is we get some backstory on Tom and Elaine. I feel like a
Yes.
little bit.
I like their connection a lot. Yeah.
How
think it's
old
very
was
sweet.
Elaine?
Very, very young.
Okay,
I think she's supposed to
To
be
me,
like
that-
3 or 4
I
when
was
he's
thinking
there.
she said like 2 or 3.
Yeah,
to me,
she's
I was just
young.
like, this. There's no way you'd remember this much at 2.
I think she's supposed to be like 3 to 4. I don't know if specifically, but there's
Right,
enough
but-
there that it's like she doesn't remember
Okay.
outright from seeing him, but it's just like hey, I remember this feeling.
She just had to get
Which-
roofied to be reminded
Yeah,
of it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
God.
It came out of nowhere.
It came out of nowhere.
I was like, wait, why is she drunk?
Well, that's what. Yeah, well, that's what I was like. I still am not entirely sure. Like,
I don't
if
know.
she just if she just drank too much without realizing it, sitting there for too long, or if it was some kind of like somebody tried to do something. To
Well,
her.
they say Tanchico's like
Right.
super lawless, and
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
very well could be.
And they kept bringing up the
it's-
serving boy too. Like, I'm
The-
like, is he trying to
Yes,
rape her or
yes.
something? Like,
Yeah.
The serving boy was trying to get her into bed.
Okay.
Because it just came out of nowhere, and again, it's like one of those things that felt like it needed a little bit more breathing space
Yeah,
to like
he-
all of a
bas-
sudden.
basically the subtext is like he keeps refilling her cup without her like asking for it, and he's trying to get her drunk.
Right. I understood the context afterwards once it was explained back to us, but at the time, once you start that chapter, you're just like, "What the fuck is happening?"
It comes out of left field a little bit, but I think there's elements to her like that state of mind that we get to see, like her interaction with Tom. I actually found the interactions very funny.
I thought it was endearing.
Oh yeah,
with Tom,
it was very endearing. I would say.
And then I think it was like one of the times where I was like, "Wow, Naive, you were actually like okay character-wise in this chapter." I mean, like not like necessarily nice.
Didn't she tell her to throw up in a fucking bucket and watch her sleep so she can go to the
dunked
dream
her
world?
head into it.
She dunked her. She's basically
and then did it again.
To be fair, so
it's the nicest Nynaeve has ever been. She dunked her.
No. I'm not saying she's nice. I'm just saying it's like a funny character moment of her of like,
it was
and
funny.
there is an element of like, she thinks Elaine got drunk semi-intentionally.
Right.
She doesn't realize that she was basically like almost roofied. Yeah. Which it's explained too that Elaine doesn't understand her tolerance because she only ever has like one cup of wine ever.
Right.
But I was just like, I found it so funny when she was like, "Well, what's down in the bucket?" And she's just like, "Dunk.
Water."
You need to stop being fucking drunk. Slap.
It did sober her the fuck up. That worked.
Sobered me up too.
I was laughing. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, a lot of Tanshiko is just like, I mean, there's like a little bit of like the Shan-chan. We get a little bit more of like their perspective, like a character from their culture that we get to see that's like, they're not entirely evil. It's just
sympathetic.
That they have a cultural, and I think that's what this book starts to do really well is like, there are different cultures, and he starts to show you that there are very different mindsets in these cultures, and there's just because that's how they were raised, right?
It's normal for them.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't make it okay, but you come at that perspective.
Yeah, Aegiana doesn't
like, this is
realize,
how that she was raised.
Yeah, Aegiana doesn't realize that like, oh, like people who can channel aren't evil.
It's like, yeah,
but like her culture,
they can learn.
Yeah, her culture believes like, oh, the people who use the power broke the world, so they are all evil and must be controlled.
Right. Which
But
I
then
understand
she learns that
perspective.
almost every female can learn it, and so she's like, oh,
not every female, but more basically
more than
yes,
that are born with it. I am excited to see, hopefully, the Shan-chan culture collapse with this news. Really excited for that to happen.
Again, this was something that I felt like needed a little bit more breathing space too, because like all of a sudden it felt like they were all friends, and it's like, oh, we're all friends now. Well, I really like you, but you're Shan-chan. Like, it just came out of like, oh, okay, now they're friends. Oh, they figure out she's Shan-chan. Oh,
yeah,
they don't like her, but they still like her.
There's elements of this that's like we needed more scenes to see this friendship be flushed out more.
Yeah, she just kind of starts hanging out, and it just skips forward.
But that's part of like that's been in this series a lot too. Like Nynaeve and Lan's relationship is like never really explained on the page. It just happens in the background.
It's happened in the background,
and it's like, seen it. And it's like, I kind of would have liked to see that because it might have humanized Nynaeve a bit more.
Nah, she probably would have dunked her head in a fucking bowl of water.
I will say Nynaeve had my message mark is about this, the one redeeming part of Nynaeve when I was just like, fuck yeah. When she discovers the black collar and she's like, no, I'm not going to let you do this to one of my people.
Oh, okay. I thought meant something else, but yeah, that was
no,
cool.
no, that's the part where I was just like, go Nynaeve, let's go. You're not being a bitch.
And that was on brand too for her, protecting someone from her village.
Yeah, I loved it.
She's still like a little bit of that village wisdom is still stuck in her.
Yeah,
and it is a good character moment for her, and it's a good empathizing moment for us, the readers, because they're definitely we need more of those.
Yes,
and
like, please let me like Nynaeve. I want to so bad.
We do get more of those. We do get more of those throughout the series. I see this point of why why didn't Nynaeve just kill Mogideon?
The way that Mogideon just killed
Why
them
didn't
on the spot
Mogideon just kill them?
when they first met him. Apparently, this was a big pushback from a lot of
Right,
fan base
right.
of like when she showed up, forced them to answer her questions and put them on some kind of spell.
She used
Blind
compulsion on them.
Yeah.
Right, which people like say, well, why didn't Mogideon just kill them
Because
after she got her answers?
So this is something that comes up a little bit later, but it makes I can explain it now because it like makes sense in context with what you guys already know. Mogideon is like known as like the spider, basically. She's the she's like
power.
She's about manipulation, and so why remove a piece from the board when you can potentially use that piece to your advantage, if that makes sense.
I think she says that too.
Yes.
She's like, it might be it might be useful to kill you now, but you might come to me later, and I might be able to use you.
Right,
Exactly.
it might have potential in some stuff. I'm just saying this is something that was from the fan base.
And I'm
that
pretty
people
sure the Black
criticized.
Aja didn't know that she was who she was. I think they just thought that she was a serving woman.
I think they try to. I think the one that they bully in the beginning
Is
the serving
her.
woman,
Is her,
I'm
right?
pretty sure it's Mogideon.
Yeah.
And
It's
she
just
just
not
takes
said,
it.
though.
I'm pretty sure she just takes it
Right.
because that's just
Because
kind of
she's
how
able
she
to manipulate
is.
them. Yeah.
Exactly. She's using.
I think that she's the
but that
servant
made
because
sense.
they say
Yeah.
that she's dressed as like in serving girl or like in
Yes.
serving person attire. So I think that was the
And-
context of why she was there.
And the way she was reacting to
Yes.
them, like berating her and whatever.
And
Yeah.
Mogideon doesn't like with Nynaeve and Elaine especially. She's just like, who cares? They're barely like. Think about it. She's like several thousands of years old. She's like, these children can never challenge me until the end of the book, where Nynaeve basically just like is like, I'm gonna shield you.
I'm gonna hold you there.
Right.
And there's that. I did like that fight between them of like this element of like, wait a minute, why isn't she like? Is she not
Overpowering me.
Why isn't she overpowering me? Oh, wait. She's giving it everything, and I'm winning this fight. So it's kind of a moment. It's a moment of realization that's like the Forsaken are not gods. They
Right.
can bleed.
And Nynaeve did point out like the weakness is that she has been hiding herself for so long that she wouldn't be very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least she'd still be rusty. And so I do like that acknowledgement. Like, oh my god, they have faults.
Yeah, they have problems of their own, and Mogideon is also not one of the more powerful of the Forsaken. Like, you've got like some of the big. I mean, men are always supposed to be more powerful, like raw channeling power, just in general. But like Lanfear is obviously like just stronger in the power. Some of them are stronger in the power than others too. Like they range on scales of.
They have their
Power.
own kind of like hierarchy almost.
Yes.
It's interesting.
Right.
About the one Black Aja just like shooting the balefires through the palace. I just was like, so is
That
it
was awesome.
what they say the Terangru was? It's just like a rod.
It's a
Or is
black
it like-
fluted rod that shoots balefire. Yeah.
Yeah, because I just like imagined her because they talk about too how like she gets done and then she's like oh, and then she's like oh yeah and just like starts shooting it again. I just like that just made me laugh like the way it was described.
It's basically
Anyway,
like,
I just started blasting.
Exactly.
I want to blast you.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's not explained what balefire is yet, right? You guys don't know. I'm pretty sure it's not.
They-
It's just a
it's just
forbidden
not
It's
power
a
exactly.
spell.
forbidden
It's a
thing.
forbidden-
It's like, yeah,
It's a forbidden.
Jutsu.
It's forbidden jutsu.
forbidden no jutsu.
Okay. We'll learn more about balefire coming up.
And we also know that it doesn't destroy the Quendalar, obviously.
Yeah.
And it
And it can't destroy.
Moraine, I think, mentioned that it doesn't like it like completely erases their existence or something like that. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're dead. I think.
I don't
I don't know.
remember that.
It doesn't seem that bad of a spell to cast constantly.
It'll-
to me.
Yes, it'll get explained more in future books. So I won't spoil some of that because I want you guys to see what I want to get the raw feeling when you guys.
Yeah, I
figure
want to
that
know
out.
what the downside to this is. I mean, obviously it's very destructive, but it's like
And,
like,
makes her
what
really
what is
tired.
it costing the person?
You become a bitch.
Like, why is it a forbidden spell?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Spell.
Moraine's
Why
more
is it a forbidden
testy.
use of the power?
I will. Obviously, there is a reason. I just don't want to explain
Right.
it to you guys yet. Anything else we want to talk about in this section, I feel like we covered the big stuff. I mean, we
Other
get
than
some.
it being-
The collar is super scary.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
collar.
that collar's terrifying.
Yeah, the collar.
But also, they just explain that if you collar the man and you wear it, you share the taint with them.
Yeah.
So I'm
you
wondering
get
if that's going to
affected.
come up in the future where they're actually going to put the collar on Rand just so that they can
to.
just so they can take the madness away from him.
It's
Like,
got
some of
to
it.
maybe not even Rand. What if it's part of Logain too? Like we don't need. Well,
But
I
he's-
guess they still
he's
him,
gentle.
didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah, he's
He's
gentle.
gentle.
Yeah.
Which got brought up in this. I think this book where there's never been a successful unstilling or ungentling.
Mhm.
I'm gonna guess they're
It
gonna
might
figure a way
change.
out.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
wondered about that too.
They're gonna figure it out towards the end, I would guess.
I kept
Otherwise, they
finding
wouldn't
it,
have said
I
it.
kept finding it funny where she's just Swan with Logain is just like, oh, can you check and make sure that he doesn't kill himself? Like, we need to make sure he doesn't kill himself.
He's
I
just like wandering around.
he's just like, I want to die. Like,
He looks at a tree and they're like, no, 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 no.
get him away from that.
I mean but that's supposed to be kind of how scary like gentling and stilling
Yeah,
is.
it's
It's
supposed-
just like
yeah.
it really does, you know. It really is like a terrifying thing. Like basically,
And so
you
that
just
makes me
lose your
worried
will
for
to live.
Swan. I know she
It
says
made
she's
me-
really strong, but we'll
It made
see.
me think of like when you hear of like side effects to like some antidepressants or things like
Mhm.
that, where
It's
it
like a
just like
withdrawal.
totally neutralizes some people's like parts of their personality, or like just like that's kind of what it made me think of.
Yeah, with
Like-
Swan like has obviously research and stuff like that, so she's got like that element of like you have to find a new purpose. Like you have to find something that you're living
to hold
for.
on to.
Yeah.
Else you're going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's enough
Wanna
to talk
do-
about the girls. I want to talk about Perrin and Fael and the two rivers.
Okay, I was gonna say, do you want to do Perrin first or Rand first?
I want to do Perrin first because like as much as I think we all love the Perrin and Fael and the two rivers section of the book,
So fucking good.
I
So
think
fucking
that
good.
I think that the bigger conclusion is still obviously the way the book progresses, which is
Ends.
with Rand and the Waste and stuff like that. So Perrin, Fael,
Yeah.
and two rivers.
Can
We
we just
gotta-
skip to the part where they're in the rivers?
Yeah,
the
no, I
ways
don't care about the ways. I think
fucked.
the ways are like meh. I
And
mostly
the puppy
Fael-
dog thing got used so much it became weird.
yeah.
The Fael fight thing.
It seemed
oh,
like a
God.
sex thing, and it made me
Dude, he
uncomfortable.
texted me. He's like, dude, wait until you get to Fael and the puppy thing. I'm like, what are you talking about?
It's like,
He's
just
dude.
wait, it's weird.
I'm like,
Yeah, let's
okay.
just skip past most of that stuff. Let's talk about the White Cloaks in the two rivers too. The Children of the Light and the White Cloaks and stuff like that. How you guys like the White Cloaks now?
I hated them before. I still hate them.
Right.
They've got redeeming qualities. Still suck.
I feel like you need to clarify something for me because I heard
Yes.
this somewhere else and I didn't come to this conclusion that Slayer was the one controlling the Trollocs and the Shadow, basically, and then the White Cloaks were just showed up and they were a third party. They weren't being controlled by Padan Fain
So
type of thing. I thought
yes,
Padan Fain was just like trying to
You're
arrest.
just kind of there.
Right.
So yes, there's three parties in the two rivers. Slayer is one of the he comes to the two rivers first, I believe, and he's already in the two rivers when the White Cloaks show up.
Yeah.
Padan Fain has part of Mordeith in him from the dagger from Shadar Logoth. And he's broken free of the control of the Dark One. So Padan Fain is
okay.
basically a third evil force in the he's another evil force that's existing within the world, and he has elements tied to the Dark One and elements tied to Mordeith and Shadar Logoth. But both the evils kind of cancel each other out, and he kind of has it's basically like three personalities wrestling themselves inside of him. So
They even mention it when he talks to people. He slips between the two.
yeah, he
and
Right,
switches
changes
between
his
accents.
accents.
Yeah, it's basically like there's three people living inside of his body now, and they're all fucking crazy.
all fucking nuts.
And so he has control over. He can take control of Shadow Spawn, like the Dark One.
Right.
But
The
he's
Myrddraal.
also because he has Myrddraal and stuff following him, and he's also got humans and stuff following him because he corrupts.
Ex-White Cloaks.
Yeah, he takes some, but he's also basically wiggled his way into the White Cloaks.
Yeah.
and
I
he's
guess
kind of
it
like
did, but whatever.
fucking with them too.
which is a really fun case of irony.
And
I will say so.
I don't know. This was only briefly mentioned in the chapter. I'm sure you guys picked this up, but did you like? It's revealed that Parent's family's dead, right? Like we get that
Yes.
huge
Right.
reveal, and everyone thinks
Sorry, I want to talk about it.
yes.
I didn't mean it in a good way.
We get
Kill all of them.
we get the line of like, oh, it was Trollocs, but then we find out later it was not the Trollocs. The White Cloaks were the ones who did it.
Right. I thought I picked that up, but that's why I was confused.
I thought it was.
It was Pat and Fane.
Yeah, I thought it
Pot
was
Fane
him.
and his White Cloaks
And his White Cloaks did
killed
it, yeah.
all of and
and 2 scouts or
By-
people from the
what's-
real White Cloaks.
were killed. Yeah.
Yeah, and just said they were the only 2 that died. I think that's why I got confused, because I thought that the White Cloaks were with the Trollocs as well as a conjoined unit because of that fact. They're like, oh, the Trollocs did it. Oh, actually, the White Cloaks did it.
No, the 2 scouts went with Pat and Fane and his ex-White Cloaks.
Right.
which
so
were
those
which
two
were
were
at the
killed.
time White Cloaks, because they were like burning
Yes.
and killing farm villages, and Pot and Fane's basically like, you need to kill them all.
Right.
And they're like, but then there's an element of like, well, this man's nuts, but there's also an element of like, he's got privilege from the higher ups, and there's also an element of we hate Perrin, so it's kind of like we want to, but we don't want to. Okay, Dane Bornhold and Bayer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Bornhold and Bayer are like obsessed with fucking Perrin, but they know
Who
they
isn't?
they know they know, and it's revealed later on that they know that it was White Cloaks that killed Perrin's family,
Right.
Yeah.
and they're not telling him.
Right.
And it's
I guess
It was a
really picked
weird.
that up.
It was a weird like group. Like that's why it was like confused that
yeah,
the
it's
White Cloaks are
it's.
separate from the
it-
Trollocs, though.
I mean, technically speaking, if you really think about it, there's like 4 parties then running through the 2 rivers. There's the Trollocs and the Murdral and Slayer. There's
Right.
Pot on Fane's White Cloaks, and there's the actual White Cloaks, and then there's the people of the 2 rivers.
Right.
There's a lot of moving parts.
There's a lot of moving parts in that part. Yeah. How do you guys feel about how you like that scene when Perrin finds out his family's dead?
I've got 2 things. One, we've always been talking about consequences. Like, we want to see consequences of stuff that's happening. Boy, does this count. My heart broke when Perrin broke. Like, it was great how it was written. Like, he wasn't comprehending. Like, even I was listening to it. I was like, he hasn't really acknowledged that his entire family's dead. He just keeps going on, and then it slowly descends to where he starts bawling. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
The second part is I kind of wish it was still Trollocs that killed him. I didn't like that it was Pat and Fane, and my reasoning's stupid. It feels weird to have like a mustache twirling villain be the one to kill him, and not it just be a random consequence of him taking too long.
I mean, but the blame rests on Bornhold because he's the commander of this unit, right?
Yeah.
And that will come into play. There's elements of like that guilt that is like it's basically showing like White Cloaks are, I mean, we already know the White Cloaks
They're
are
not good.
bad, but they're kind of evil at some points.
Really evil. They kill an entire family.
Well, also them just looking for any excuse to, like
Imprison people, hang
people,
Imprison,
and,
hang
send them
people,
to the
yeah.
questioners, and
Yeah.
and they even reference that too, like even just random 2 Rivers like citizens being like, yep, they'll find any excuse to turn you on your neighbors or whatever. Like,
Yep.
Right.
I
I liked it. I wish we got
loved
more.
it.
I wish we got more after that chapter of him done crying. I wish we got more of his reaction afterwards, because I felt like it just kind of like he like, let's go out, kill Trollocs. Then we kind of skipped like time, and then they were ready to go back and defend the village instead. I wish we just got a little bit more of him like dealing
Killing
with it,
Trollocs.
Yeah.
killing Trollocs, or just dealing with the that more. I just felt like he kind of cried which is obviously very emotional. I was with you on that. Like, fuck, that sucks, Perrin. But
Well,
I
it's
just wish
like
we got a little bit more later.
the
with
thing
it.
that
Well,
got
you do see him like after the fact. I can't remember if it's like the next day or whatever, but like he's like talking to people, and then there's like the random sentences where it's like, "Oh, Pate loved these ribbons," or like whatever,
Yeah.
like like stuff like that he was saying. You know, there's like a random sentence thrown in of like his
Right. I guess I mean even
siblings,
towards
like,
the
in
end of
his-
the book.
you know, whatever.
Right.
like if it would have carried through a little bit more. I mean,
Right. Like Rand's
let's-
letters that he got from Elaine was more of a focal point down the road than Perrin dealing with his whole family dying.
I
Well,
feel like
after
that's
that
probably
scene.
something that'll just like get played into more as time goes on, because like
Right.
there was
I
like
hope
the
so.
immediate threat of like the Trollocs and everything. Like they had to defend, you know, Emmons Field. So like I don't think they just
I mean,
Well,
he was distracted.
I mean, there is an element that's played into this in the concluding part, which is the messenger boy.
Yeah, it's his cousin.
yeah
It's like a
his
distant cousin, and
It's
it's
like a
like
distant cousin.
it's supposed to be like that moment of like, oh, there's still something left.
Yeah,
He's
it's like
not alone.
not all of my family is dead. I
Yeah.
still have some here.
Right.
But like, yeah,
I do
no,
want to note though
Yep.
that I'm not happy that Perrin's family's dead. I was just happy to see consequences. I realized the way that I said it.
I mean, it's
Listen,
it's,
you're a monster, and we know
I'm a
it.
monster.
It's really sad. I mean, like, because like
It's
you
really
think about like
sad.
you think about like a normal story, right? And it's like, oh, maybe the parents die, and like maybe some like other people older, maybe grandparents or something like that die. But like he goes into like he's got like
Sisters.
younger siblings that like are just he's
Like
like Pate.
6.
He's like Pate was 9, and
Or
it was
9,
yeah.
and he's like.
And his sisters were 16 or something.
Yeah, they're
like that.
It's
Yeah,
like
they're really young.
they murdered kids.
Which I wish we got a little bit more of his family in the first book, just
Yeah.
to kind of get a
Yeah.
little bit more of it. I hope they do that in the show. Hope we get a little bit more,
See more of his family.
of his family, just to see the consequences.
I-
Really see them.
I would be surprised if we do. I feel like the show's gonna need to
Right.
rush some stuff, but okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say also, I mean, you kind of like I think they expand on that a little bit, like not directly with his family, but then like you see him taking all the boys out from like around the two rivers, and then they get ambushed by those Trollocs from the other side, and like he loses some people, and like that's a huge deal.
And he like
And,
remembers
like,
all their names.
all he thinks about is like how it was his fault and they're dead because of him.
Yeah, that's true. That was kind of like him. He replaced his family with his army, quote
Yeah.
unquote.
Let's talk about the Slayer plotline and the.
I am so intrigued by that.
You guys got the message, right? That about Lord Luke.
Yeah,
that
I
he
was like,
Slayer.
I was so like back and forth on that. I was
Yeah.
convinced that he was Slayer for a long time. Obviously, that we find out that that's the case, but like there was definitely points where I was like, man, maybe is he just like, does he just kind of suck and he's actually like a normal dude, like, but his personality just sucks, like, but he's normal, a good guy or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean there's lots of hints throughout the book too of like that won't work. That'll actually just leave them out for slaughter, basically. Like he's like putting all
Yeah.
these plans together, and like it's a little bit of like a. Is he just an idiot? Is he just like
Or is he just fucking around?
yeah? Is he just
Yeah.
like an idiot who doesn't understand how tactics work, or is he just like, or is he intentionally setting these people up?
Right,
And we find out-
Right, it was more heavy-handed. Like, hey, you probably shouldn't trust Luke. For me personally, I just went like, this guy's an idiot. Instead
like,
of
this
actually
guy's
going
just
with
a rich
Slayer.
moron.
Right, and honestly, anything with like Slayer, it didn't impact anything. Of like, there was no wolves around. I was actually really disappointed that we didn't get to see Perrin's
But
powers more.
that's why there's no wolves around, because he's been
The Slayer
hunting
killed
them.
them all.
So they've abandoned the two rivers, which he
Right.
did intentionally because the wolves would have helped the two rivers protect them.
They would have helped out Perrin.
Right, it was just more like Perrin didn't seem like he was super like nerfed
Concerned
at
about
that
it.
point. Yeah, it was just. It felt like Slayer was just such like a side.
It's
thought
it's another
that I
one of
didn't-
those very much like
Mm.
he'll come back. He's
Right.
being set up here to be
yeah,
more of a
because we also
prevalent
see
issue.
the tower, whatever, I can't remember what it's
The
called.
Tower of
The-
Genji.
Yeah. I do want to know more about this.
I
Shinaran connection? Because it said that like they keep
He's a border.
describing Slayer as he looks like Lan.
He looks like a borderlander. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to know more.
That like
I don't remember.
wasn't there like the woman parent saw that told them about the tower like in the
With
whole
the silver
thing, too?
bow.
Or was it Brigitte?
Brigitta, yeah.
Brigitta.
Okay, because I know she goes to the.
Brigitta's showing up a lot in this book.
A lot.
In the dream world.
Really,
She
let's
shows
talk
up
about
for
Slayer. I'm gonna go. to the bathroom
Nynaeve
real quick.
actually had an encounter with Slayer too.
Yeah. No. Yes, she did. Because she
did,
popped
'cause
back
she
to
was
the
back
two
in the two
rivers,
rivers.
and he almost killed her.
Yeah.
And she pops out before he can. Yeah. The Tower of Slayer stuff is definitely set up for the future. The Tower of Genji. Let me tell you, I forgot that was in this book. So
Really?
that should tell you where it comes at in the series.
I kind of
Nate.
just got the vibe, like I don't know why, but that just seemed to me like something that wasn't gonna pay off for quite a while.
I really want to tell you what book it actually like comes up in. That's really important. You guys want to know?
Yes.
Because I know exactly what book it's in.
It's late. I'm
Book,
guessing
it's
9.
late.
Guess a 9? Okay, what's your guess, Riker?
Gonna go 11.
13.
13? Second to last book?
The second to last
We're
book.
9 books away from this bitch.
Get it.
Going on with more parent stuff. We get the two Aes Sedais that show up. We get Varen and Alana.
Tom. Or not Tom. Thom. Or
Tam.
And Varen's like we see
We'll get
Varen just like
Tam and
observing Varen.
Tam and Abel. Yeah, so we get the two warders. We get Tam to come back finally. A lot of fan favorite characters.
Woo,
and we get
anything.
And we get to meet Matt Seth. I mean, he did stuff. But he
wasn't a lot of character moments.
Definitely in the background, like he was training them to like sword
He
play.
he was basically
warfare,
like a sub general underneath Perrin.
Right.
So we
I
get a
think
lot of
Dole
characters.
was my favorite side character, actually.
Oh, Gaul.
Dole was
so good.
I love their bromance.
Oh,
Dole
he's
and
so
Perrin.
cool. Yeah,
Gaul is
so
God.
awesome.
And like him and Chiad or whatever her name is, like they hate each other, but they're also like secretly getting it on the side.
At the end, they're kind of. What do they call it?
Bane and
Dancing
Chiad,
the Spears is fighting, right?
Like
Maiden's Kiss.
Something about
Maiden's Kiss. That's it.
That's a game.
Yeah.
Well, Maiden's Kiss is which we know what it is because Matt plays it in the beginning of the stuff because I think he gets tricked into playing it.
And
Which-
doesn't
Did we
Rand do it too?
No,
We
Rand
don't
did
see
not
it,
do
though.
No,
Do
we
we
don't.
see
He talks about it in his card game, which is where
Right.
they basically he's like, "Oh, let me tell you about this game, Maiden's Kiss," and he talks about like how he asked to play it because he heard about it and he was like, I can get some
Booty.
kissing on,
I just thought he was just like bullshit. I didn't think any of it
I
was
thought
no,
true.
was
I'm
bullshit.
pretty.
Yeah, same.
I'm pretty sure that's actually how the game works, where they like basically like put you to spear
the
point,
fuck
and you're
out
like, they're like, oh, you kissed well. Okay, we'll lighten it up a little bit. Oh, this was poor. We're gonna get just a little bit closer with the spear points. So yeah, they basically threaten him.
Hey Olivia, do you want to play Maiden's Kiss?
No, I think Gaul is their bromance is great, and I really
awesome.
like the Okay, hold on. Best side character in this, Gaul or Loyal?
Goal.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think. I mean,
I
Loyal
really
didn't do anything different in this book. He's still writing his book.
yeah,
I mean,
but
other than they went to go close the gate,
that was the big moment
But-
of like
but
them.
Gold did it too.
Yeah.
Gaul, yeah, Gaul and
Well, and
Gaul
like
Loyal both did, yeah.
plus you get to see Loyal with he's like has his dual wielding axes, defending the town.
He's taking a
and,
much more active role in
Yes.
combat than he has.
like you
Right.
definitely see some growth there of he's not just like the scholarly type and like as much anymore, like he is capable of more than that.
well, and
Yeah.
there's this element of like I'm not a hero, and Perrin's like,
I did like that. I did appreciate like
It's
that.
like, you
hey,
are
no,
a
you
hero.
are a hero, you fucking idiot.
yeah,
And
Did anyone else get super confused with how Fael was able to trick Loyal into having him take her through the way gates and not Perrin? That whole
first,
interaction
but
was just
she-
so weird.
So
It
like
was weird, but
I-
seems pretty par for the course given
Yeah.
Loyal's
So-
logic.
yeah,
That's true.
no, it was definitely a moment of like it's supposed to show off Fail's not an idiot. She knows what Perrin's trying to fucking like. She doesn't know his whole plan, but she knows he's trying to get rid of her for some reason, like some reason that he's not letting on. And so she's like,
Right.
"Oh, what is the next logical step? Oh, he's gonna go to Loyal, probably
I'm gonna hang out
because
with Loyal.
he's probably gonna go to Loyal because he needs to get home, which means he's probably gonna do X, because she knows about that stuff now. So
Right.
I actually think it's a good character moment for her, which I actually liked. I think she had a lot of good character moments throughout
yeah.
Oh
this.
yeah. I mean, like I said, once they were done fighting and bickering, any Perrin chapter, I buzzed through so quick.
Mhm.
It was so good.
Everything was great.
I mean, we're gonna get into the end after. Let's get into the end right now because I want to talk about the battle and stuff like that. The fact that she knows what he's doing, agrees to do it even though she doesn't want to, and then uses that to basically rally the rest of the two rivers to help him.
Fantastic.
Queen.
Also,
Well, and also like the
nowhere.
guy that the White Cloaks bring with them, that's like dead basically, and he dies saying like we are coming.
We're
Yeah.
coming.
What does that
yeah.
mean?
She
Like,
took
what-
that as a
Oh yeah.
oh,
like,
there's
what
an
the-
army coming.
Well,
I'm gonna
yeah.
see if I can find them.
Well,
I
no,
didn't know
no.
that.
She knows. She figures that out. That
She figured it
and
out.
this is like where we get the reveal of like her dad is
Oh, yeah, she's
uncle
like
to a
royalty.
queen,
yeah.
and she's basically
That's
in the
all.
royal line of Saldaea. But she figures out that they're coming from I think the south, so she goes to the north to grab the next village to the north, and they basically pincer in the Trollocs that is trying to
Right.
pincer in the two rivers.
It
That
was
was
giving
just
me
awesome.
like
how
it was
intelligent
giving
she
me
was,
like
yeah.
it was giving me like Gandalf cresting like over the
Yes!
hill at
Yes.
Helm's Deep vibe,
Exactly.
you know?
On the third day, look for
Look,
me.
the light of the third day.
Yeah, it was definitely a moment of like all the characters, and we feel that with like there's almost no hope. It feels like there's no hope left in the two rivers, and like all the two rivers people, like parents trying to put on a brave face, but they all know they're probably gonna die here. And like there's a chance if the White Cloaks help, but then the White Cloaks fucking ditch.
Right, and
Yeah, they
he tells
didn't
them,
move.
"Hey, if you help, as long as you help and we survive,
You can arrest me
I
for
don't
free."
care."
Oh god, that was so satisfying though when
That
he's
was
like
yeah.
when he's like
so good.
I said if you helped
Yes.
and you
Assist,
didn't,
yeah.
get the fuck out of here. Get out of here.
I was so like, "Oh my god, he's gonna get captured, and then we're gonna have to fucking follow him in the next book of him being captured." I was like, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah.
Sweet. That was so satisfying.
And there's like this
Um,
there's these elements of like, and we're starting to see like, because Perrin really I think grows in this book a lot too,
Oh,
of
for
like
sure.
and there's like a huge element of like, I don't want to be king, stop making me a lord, and everyone's like, yes,
Now
Lord
you're
Perrin, we'll stop making you a lord, Lord Perrin. Like we're not gonna stop
and
making
they're all
him a
like,
lord.
and he's always like, they know exactly what they need to do, but they keep asking me
Yeah.
what to do.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
they're idiots.
I love that. Like we talked about Rand's Taviran pull. I'm
Mhm.
wondering if this was Perrin's.
Yes, that's
To rally
exactly
the
yes.
entire two rivers around him.
Yeah, Rand
sure.
basically
Right.
Rand pulls on almost the entirety of the world, whereas Perrin and Matt's pulls are much closer.
Or just like localized around
yeah,
them.
exactly. So they're still strong, but Rand's like Arthur Hawkwing strong, where he's pulling nations and like across the kingdoms, like in different ways.
It's just fun to see Taviran used in a different way than it has been. And
Right.
I really like that.
I also
What-
kind of wonder. I was thinking about this like long term too later on in the series. It kind of makes me wonder if like Emond's Field or like even just like the two rivers in general, like they're hinting at like either like Manetheren being like rebuilt or like
rise
something
again.
similar to that effect. Because like also it's like why obviously like the
Manetheren.
warders are like training the villagers and everything like that. So
Mhm.
like there's some like combat growth there, but it's like it seemed to me like they got like they were pretty good at fighting at like a weirdly fast pace, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
they mentioned it.
that was supposed to be like the hint of like we've gotten hints throughout the rest of the books of like Matt's oddly good at fighting and Perrin's oddly good at fighting and Rand can hit something from like what 300 yards away
They said like
pinpoint
300
Right.
yards.
and it's like
And they keep like they mentioned multiple times how like the blood of Manetheren runs strong in that
Yeah.
area or whatever. So
yeah, because that's where they
Manetheren?
Manetheren is usually
Manetheren. Manetheren. Sorry. I
Yeah,
was
they do
so
mention
confused what you're talking about.
Like I believe one of the warders mentions that the training was going so much better than he thought it would.
Mhm.
That they're picking
Yeah,
up
there's
so
lots
fast.
of hints. There's been hints up to this point, but there's lots of like the blood never really. It's kind of like the void that's passed down from that
Generation
Rand
to
knows
generation.
generations to generation. It's like this stuff has been passed down, even though Manetheren fell. Like the people of Manetheren did not all die, and when they rebuilt in the Two Rivers, and like these skills were passed down through the generations, but they just have nothing to compare it to because they're just these farmers out in the middle of nowhere. So they think like, oh, we're just farmers, and it's like really well trained farmers.
I enter the void to
And
pick
didn't-
this carrot.
Didn't Brigitta mention that Emmons Field was built on the site of Lord Eamon's
I'd have
last battle or something like
I
that?
have to look at that, but that would not surprise
He was like a
me.
king
yeah, I
of
kind of vaguely remember
Manetheren.
something like
Yeah,
that.
there's supposed to be a lot of hints about like
Like a lot of hints.
I mean,
and a lot
even
of setup.
there's also the Taviran thing of like people start pulling out old armor and stuff like that. They didn't think that like randomly people start to find swords that they're like, wait, I totally forgot I saved this in my
Right.
shed.
It's like I bought this
I-
from a merchant years
yeah.
ago.
or
Or
like
maybe it's
or
like
like oh
2 swords and all.
I found this banner of the Red Eagle of Manetheren. Oh, whoops. And it's just like that is also
Seemed like a lot of things started happening.
yeah, Taviran is also that's also part of the Taviran-ness of it. Whereas like this when chance happens, it's like chance kind of sometimes rolls in your favor.
Right.
Um
Kind of forgot about this, but us talking about Manetheren and stuff like that. Nynaeve entered a dream and talked to one of the bowmen or bowwomen from the Age of Legends.
Brigitta.
It was Brigitta.
Brigitta. Okay. Someone said
Brigitta-
Brigitta as well, and I just remembered that. Okay.
Brigitta's been in like basically all the dreams, I think, except for Rand's.
Okay.
Like anyone that's been in the dream world now, which is Perrin, Nynaeve, Elaine, and Egwene, I think have all had interactions with Brigitta at some point. Because I think she started popping in a couple times in book 3.
And we kind of get
I
that
think it was last
explanation,
book.
too.
Yeah, that's when we first saw her.
We definitely get like an explanation a little bit there too, because then I forget what the guy's name is that shows up in Tenchiko, like in the dream world with her, but he's like not even like, it's like he's not acknowledging Nynaeve at all, like he doesn't even realize she's there, but like Brigitte is like interacting with her, and she even talks about how she's kind of like breaking the rules interacting.
Yeah.
You know.
I think
okay.
Gaidin or something like that. I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It's her like they're like the fated lovers basically.
No.
They're like to get like they're like I want to say like the way to this doesn't make sense in mythological standpoints, but they're basically like Ares and Artemis type thing.
They're Romeo and Juliet.
They're kind of well, but they've
But right from way back.
They have been reborn. They're part of the heroes of the wheel. So they've been reborn multiple times, but they're always born together. And sometimes they're on the same side, sometimes they're on opposite sides. So they always are with each other. And usually it ends with them being like married at the end in some way. Yeah, they're like connected by the
I
pattern.
wonder then if they've been reborn as well at this point.
If who?
If those two have been reborn.
No,
with,
if
like, the main characters.
If they've been reborn, they can't
They
be in the
wouldn't
dream
be
world.
there.
Because
Yeah.
they'd be like Rand
right.
is Lews Therin Telamon. So if Lews Therin wasn't reborn, he would be in the world of dreams.
Okay.
But since Lews Therin has been reborn, he's inside. He's basically Rand now, and Rand is a living person. So he's him. Yeah. So it's
and
like
Lews Therin wasn't in the dream world either, right?
correct.
Or
no,
not,
he.
or no,
they saw that
sorry.
scene.
Arthur Hawkwing is what I meant to say.
No, Art Hawkwing's in the dream world as well because he was summoned
Is
by
he?
the horn.
He was called back by the horn.
Okay.
The people that are called by the horn are still
in the dream
dead.
world.
Yeah, they're still in the dream
Gotcha.
world. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they're still not in. They're not living people, but they're part of the pattern, and so they'll be spun out as time calls for them, type thing.
Gotcha. I was thinking that Matt was pretty much the new Arthur Hawkwing with the general like information that
there's-
he has type of thing.
I
There's
think.
something going on with him.
Yeah, there's an element of like Matt's title is the gambler. So
Right.
I don't think I'm trying to think of a point. I don't know if we ever really get like who else he's been throughout history, but I think we're pretty much done with the Two Rivers point, I think.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So we
me.
can get into this of like with Matt and with the things he got from the other doorway, because the first one was questions, the second one was things he got, and one of the
Yeah,
things
like
he got was
request
his
demands.
memory, the holes in his memory from the dagger filled in, but
Yeah.
not with his memories.
Right. He didn't specify his.
Hmm.
And
Specify just
yes.
memories.
Yeah, please fill in the gaps in my memories. Yeah. So I believe
Now he could speak the old.
and I don't know if this is ever spelled out throughout the entirety of the series. But I believe those are supposed to be memories of his past lives.
Okay.
So, but I mean, I'm sure there's theories and I'm sure someone has broken it down, but I don't think it's ever explicitly said that those are him. But I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be like he's basically has memories of other lives he has lived. So he's got the knowledge of
Gotcha.
his past lives.
Previous.
Which is
Okay.
which comes off as mystic abilities and luck.
He's got like what do we see in this book,
He
right?
also just has luck.
He
just has
he has luck, which makes him the gambler, but he's also now got the ability to speak the old tongue fluently. And
Fluently,
he
like,
has-
doesn't even realize it.
Yeah, he doesn't even he can go back and forth now without even a problem.
I love that too with the first. Not sorry to interrupt.
Mhm.
You go ahead.
No, you go.
I was gonna say I love that with the first time he uses like the door with the, that leads to the questions. Lorraine had mentioned like, oh, did like this guy translated for you? And Matt's like, no. You guys
yeah,
needed
no,
it
not at all.
translated? Yeah.
Or when they were like going through the portal and they were trying to figure out which way is Rodion or Rodion, and he was just like,
Rodion.
"Oh, Rodion, let me just flip a coin,
Yeah.
and that'll be the correct way."
Yeah, I love the little teases and little hints that Matt's been understanding this other language this entire time.
Yeah, there's hints from the first book of him like naturally speaking like the old tongue without really realizing it. So like this has definitely been part of him. Just kind of like how the channeling and the Dragon Reborn are part of Rand.
I just love seeing it in action.
And I feel like the wolf brother aspect of Perrin has kind of always been a part of him. It's just like they're starting to discover those elements of themselves.
That was actually a question I think you had, Riker, when you texted me earlier. Was did all these powers awaken because they left the Two Rivers, or was it like did the wheel just kind of give them their powers as soon as like everything kicked off? Can't remember if you
Oh.
said something about that.
I'm wondering. I think it was back at like the beginning of this
Right.
whole thing, like when I just
So,
started listening to the book again. I wanted to know when all this stuff started to kick off because like it just seemed like Matt, Rand, and Perrin's abilities just all just started
All
once
at
they
once.
left the Two Rivers.
Right.
Before Moiraine showed up, none of this weird stuff happened. Yeah.
I think the point of it is supposed to be like these things were always fated to happen, but they just like this is the time that they started to show themselves. Like these things were
Gotcha.
always within them, but they
It
just like
was like more woken.
yeah, it's like they're finally getting to the age where these abilities are going to start showing. And if they would have stayed in the Two Rivers, those abilities likely would have still shown, which we see in like the other visions from like Egwene and stuff like that when she does her acceptance trial, and like Rand is still there, but his channeling is still part of him,
Right.
no matter if he stays or not.
Should we just get into Rand and Matt storyline pretty much?
That's
Logan.
what I'm doing and stuff like that. Which I want to stick on this for a little bit. I want
Ooh,
predictions.
Love this part.
So we get the 3 items Matt gets. He gets the memories filled in. He gets the spear, which is actually I don't know if it's named in this, but it's called an Ashandarai, I believe is what
I don't
it's
think it's
pronounced.
been named yet.
Which is basically it's a spear with like a sword type element on it. And then the third is the medallion. I want to
And
know
then he also gets hung.
which
The other item.
well, but those are the 3 items he gets. The
Right.
hanging is the terms he didn't set. That's the price he pays.
Yeah.
Right.
So I want to know your guys' predictions for what you think the spear and the medallion will be. Because he asked for 3 things.
To be rid of Aes Sedai,
Mm-hmm.
to have his memories, and to be out of out of this place.
Yep.
Out of wherever he was
Yes.
in the Tiangreal.
I wonder if the spear is special in a way that it could eliminate Aes Sedai or negates
I was
the
gonna say,
source.
I bet the medallion actually reduces power.
It might like protect him
Right.
from the uses of the power.
Right. It's something I feel like is more of a passive thing that I feel like he would have thought of instead of like, I don't know, slashing at the power with the thing.
I don't
The sword?
know.
I don't know anything about the spear. I don't fucking know.
I know
See-
nothing about it. Yeah. What was do we have what was written on the spear? Like, do we know
Who's
what that is?
writing on the spear?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, they
it's in
talk
the
about
old
how it was in like the old tongue,
There's
And
Raven
it's
on
what
the spear.
it's what they said to him.
yeah. Well, I think like also Rand
writing
asked Matt what
on
it said, and like Matt wouldn't tell him. Like I think Matt knew, but like he just like wasn't talking about it.
Right.
I could be wrong though, but
Thought Matt
I thought
did-
that was what
Thought
happened.
Matt
I'm gonna-
did say it.
I'm going to look it up to see what it is to make sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does mention it or we know.
Yeah,
If
but you
us-
know
I'm
what
too
it said.
afraid to look up anything.
I've got it here. That's why I looked it up, because I know you guys don't want to look it up and risk finding something. Thus is our treaty written, thus agreement made. Thought is the arrow of time, memory never fades. What was asked is given, the price is paid.
That's what's on the spear
Yes.
sword.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he says that out loud.
Okay.
Yeah, he does. He either thinks it or he says it to Rand.
Yeah.
He
Yeah, I
he
think
says
Rand
that he says they have a sense of humor, basically.
Yeah, because that's what they said to him after the deals were over.
So,
I'm just gonna guess like the spear is something that his old ancestors used because he wants his memory back. So maybe that's just like what they used back then. So he's really good with it. I would just
Yeah.
guess that then the medallion just reduces or negates Aes Sedai or the one power. Would
Okay.
be my guess.
I
guess.
don't want to spoil anything. I just want those predictions here so that when we move on, you guys
So we
can
look
come back
like
and be
idiots.
like, maybe. Okay, let's go with the history of the ideal. We already kind of touched on this as one of the positives of the book.
It was just confusing at first. Once I figured out what's going on, I was like, "Oh, this is cool."
Give me more immediate post-breaking stories or as the breaking's happening stories. That was so cool.
Yeah.
I love learning about the Aiel and how connected they are to the breaking of the world.
Logan.
But
Your thoughts? I don't know. What were your thoughts on that? I feel like you haven't talked as much as us.
With
Rambling.
the Aiel history
Mhm.
specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot to take in, like seeing it through like all the like. I mean, we were seeing across multiple ages. It kind of seemed like
We got like
yeah.
10 generations or something like we got a lot of perspectives.
Yeah.
yeah. I thought it like that section was like written really interestingly. I thought I really enjoyed like how you were seeing the one perspective, and then for the most part they carried into the next one. You know, you were seeing these people as they were younger or older, like kind of checking that stuff
Yeah.
out.
All ancestors of
Yeah, I think they
Rand
go
as well.
back in time generation to generation, so we get to kind of see like, oh, one might be a father here, but we get to go back and see him as a younger man, and then like his father, and then go back and like and back and back and back and back.
Right. It was reverse chronicle.
Yeah,
chronicle order too,
we
right?
went yeah, we started at the point closest to us, and we
And
started
then-
going back
and then
further in
moved
time.
backwards from
Yeah.
there.
That was also confusing for me. I was like,
Yeah, there's a lot packed into those sections.
There was definitely a lot of what the fuck just happened when it first starts, and then once the second one goes, you're like, he takes another step, gets the vision. I'm like, oh, okay,
right.
that's how this is going.
I want to go into it too of like, what did you guys think of like the connection between the Tinkers and the Aiel, and the fact that this trial to become like a clan chief is basically accepting that you as a people,
Your
your
wrong.
culture is
Or wrong.
is
Yeah.
wrong.
Well,
Yeah, that's what makes me wonder. Like, I'm excited to see what happens with the Aiel now that like Rand told them basically what happened in there, and like Ruark was like, that's it, that's the breaking, you know, like because you see it with like Murden or whatever his name was, or he's like literally clawing his eyes out and stuff,
Yep.
you know, when he
Mhm.
was in there. So
Yeah,
like,
he kills himself basically because he can't accept, and that's basically what the clan chief said is like, those who can't accept the truth die in Rodion.
Yep, that they did say that.
And he
Right.
says that towards the end of like, you realize that like it's like 1 in 10 come out alive, and you've basically just told the entirety of
Everyone.
our people, so like people are gonna die. And then Rand's like, he will take them
Yeah.
back and he will break them.
He'll bring you together and then destroy you.
Yep.
that's when he's also like, what will be
Mhm.
or whatever he says.
Yeah, he says to Ruark, what will be will be.
It was really
was so
interesting
good.
seeing the like the technology of the past ages too. Like I like, obviously we can kind of guess at what exactly they were because they had different, he had put like different names for them, but like it almost sounded like they had like motorcycles and like helicopters or something, and like their shock lances, like whatever exactly that was, you know.
I
like
thought I was like having a fever dream when he was describing that.
I thought I was stroking.
Yeah, no.
What?
At first,
Like,
when
I
they
don't know
first
what you're
got when they first got mentioned, I was like, wait, is this supposed to be like modern tech or like future tech? And then like it gets into it more, and it makes it a little more clear. But that just makes me wonder, like, if we're gonna see that in like real time at some point down the road in the series, like if there's some kind of like time leap or something, you know.
I
I thought I
don't
was stroking.
I don't want to say anything. Actually,
I
I
was
do
like,
kind of want to say something on that. The time management of the Wheel of Time is, I mean, they are in this time now. We are in a fantasy world. There's not going to be any gigantic, like, there will be some technological leaps, but we will not be getting like sci-fi in our fantasy. That is the
They're not gonna
sci-fi you
wage
get.
nuclear war on the Dark One.
No.
You want to build a machine gun?
But yes, the Age of Legends is like legitimately, like, when you think about it, is past what technology we have now. Like, it's supposed to be like, if we were even thousands of further years in the future, like, their technology is way beyond our capacity. And
Right,
like,
and then the world broke.
and then they break the world and send us everyone back into the Dark
Back
Ages,
to the
basically.
Dark Ages.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what the
Okay.
breaking is now that we know what it is.
Yeah, they basically like
Gotcha.
there's so much damage that they do that they basically like people just lose everything.
Didn't realize it was a take them back to the Dark Ages kind of breaking. I thought it was just like separate everybody.
No, it's a we broke the world. We basically created an Armageddon, and we had to restart from scratch. It's really bad. I do want to clarify something, because I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but I definitely picked up on this time, because I don't think I did the first time. The Tinkers and the Aiel were one people at one point. Obviously, we know that. The Gen Aiel. The Gen Aiel are neither the Tinkers nor the Aiel technically follow their original culture. There's a hint about it in one of the scenes where they split. And obviously the first thing that happens is one of them takes up this like killing and then the spear and it becomes like I had to defend myself and like they're exiled. But there's also
when he was saving his sister.
Yeah.
Right.
But then there's also a point of we're not, because their job was to take these Tirangriol and Angriol and Saangriol away and preserve them, which they did to Rodion. And we see all of them there now. That's why the doorway's there and stuff like that. But part of them were like, we don't care about what the Aes Sedai told us to do, which is what the Tinkers are. We want to focus on finding the song, which is the tree song that they had when they sang with like the Ogier and they specify what the Green Man's race is in this and one of those visions in the past vision. The one Green Man that we find,
the only one
we've seen so far. There were more of them at one point, but they are mentioned. He's mentioned in this vision backwards. He's been around since the breaking, basically.
He's been around for a long time.
But they basically, part of the Tinkers abandoned the path the Aiel had set them on, and the Aiel had abandoned the way of the leaf. So they both diverged from each other, basically. And basically have forgotten their original purpose. But it also makes sense why Tinkers get a free pass through the Tuatha, get a free pass through the Wastes. And it's interesting to see how I think in the Two Rivers scenes the best where Gaul and Chiad and Bane will not even go near them.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot about that. Yeah, I
forgot about that.
Gone.
They pieced. They're like, nope. And I think we've already seen the past at that point, but yeah, there's because they don't know, because they're not clan chiefs, but they don't understand. They just they know they're complete opposites, and there's been this cultural pass down.
It, so they just separate themselves from it.
But it also is now revealed that you guys are the same, in a way. You guys descend from the same.
They come from
people.
The same culture. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Which
really blew my mind.
Yeah,
actually.
is a really crazy tie-in together.
When I was first going through that, the creation of the Tuatha, I didn't make that connection. I was first wow, this sounds a lot like the Way of the Leaf and the Tinkers. Didn't make that connection at first, and I was like, oh shit.
You're like, oh, it's actually the same.
Oh,
thing.
it is.
They are
it's
the same
then
people.
Ruark said the Tuatha, and I was like, oh my god, I am a moron.
Yeah, they descend from the same people, which is it's fascinating because one culture is built on basically survival of the fittest in war, and the other culture is
peace, love, and no
peace,
war.
love,
peace,
and finding that damn song.
Literally to the point of peace to the point of death.
Yeah,
they would rather die. They would rather die than pick up a weapon. Which I guess that's one thing we didn't get covered in Perrin. We also get
the kid who picks up
a
a sword.
Yeah, a new major side character, I guess. He's gonna
We
be
get-
following Perrin around.
Yep, we get a Tinker that picks up the sword, which has also been foreshadowed, I
name
believe, by
Amos?
Min.
Yep. Yeah, that was one of the prophecies or the
Yep,
foretellings.
a Tinker with a sword
Yep.
is one of the
Yeah.
things Min told Perrin.
Shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
I-
they
I
all
do
come
wanna
into play.
address- I
I'm
do
sure
wanna
they
address
do.
on
It's just
here-
I get so sick of them after a while. I'm just okay.
Hey,
I get it.
You really shouldn't try to remember all of them. There's too many of them, but
Yeah,
they do
right.
all come into play. And again, that's one of the things on a second read through that pays off a bit more.
I do want to address this question.
Yep.
Marcus got here. What the fuck is the Shorum? The egg thing that breaks in the flashback?
That wasn't me.
Yeah, I put that in there.
Okay.
That was you. Oh, okay. I
I don't
think
know
that
what
was
that
the
is.
Dark One's original prison.
Yeah, no, they explained that, but it's I just wanted to know. That's something I don't know that maybe will get touched on anymore at any point. But it just I want to know more. What is that? How do they contain the Dark One? Just more about that.
Yeah, what I
Thing.
loved. That was my
Oh.
favorite flashback. Was the recreation of that. That was so terrifying. How it was described.
kind of forgot. Nynaeve also picked up a seal
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
for
she
the
did.
Dark One.
Yeah,
she did.
yeah,
She,
yeah.
They found,
Plus
I think,
the balefire thing.
Yeah.
Staff.
they found quite a few of them now, or at least they
Right.
have seen some of them, and some of them have broken.
Right.
So yes, but she has one of the seals with her, which
Yeah.
is
Okay.
important.
Right.
I actually don't. Let's put it this way, Logan. Don't think you're gonna get that question answered because I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think so. It being in the flashback like that, I didn't expect more.
We get like, obviously there's a lot of like, with the Aiel in the past and stuff like that, getting to see all that. We get a clear picture of like, oh, all of this stuff in the past has ramifications on the now, and like the now will have ramifications on the future. But we don't get like as much like direct, showing of the far past. It's only like hints and little like elements sprinkled in because like it doesn't make sense, right? There's no way to really show that without something like the Crystal Pillars in Rodion.
Right.
What do you guys think of Avienda?
Yeah,
Like
Avienda.
Avienda? How do you say it?
Avienda.
Avienda.
Avienda, yeah.
Avienda.
What's her deal? I don't get it. Like, I like her as a character, but
Yeah,
I don't
find
get
her
it.
a little more endearing than Nynaeve, at least, in her
Yeah.
like angry like rampage.
Well, I think we've had more time to deal
I
with
found
Nynaeve.
more
If she
interest in a
keeps-
rock than
if she
Nynaeve.
keeps- If she keeps acting like this, she might be as annoying, but I just want to know, like, what is your problem?
Well, I think it's also a cool way to us to get an onboarding into the culture because she actually explains it to Rand, which explains it to us. Of like,
Right.
she's like, "Well, you don't understand this," and it's like, "No, I don't understand
It's
that."
like,
It's
you're
like,
right.
and we're like, "We don't understand this," but it's a way of like showing that like,
Yeah, cultures sometimes don't. It's unexplainable sometimes.
Yeah.
Of how things. It's just how it is.
well, and it's weird for you, even for us. Like, it's weird for, I think, like in the modern day, we're a little bit more, since we're a little bit more globally connected. It's a little easier for us to be like a little more understanding and empathetic towards other cultures. But like, like even 50 years ago, like it could feel very alien to be, like that type of difference. And like, it's just like, what do you mean? That's not how we do it. And it's like, well, that's not how we do it. And I find it super interesting that he's using that to a point of like, Avienda's normal is not the same normal as Rand's normal, and she's very clear about that.
Right.
That's
And I
true.
wish we got more specifically of just that. But for most of it, we just got Avienda just, hey, Rand, you suck.
Just
Fuck
really
you.
hates Rand, and I don't understand why.
But here's my one of two predictions.
Okay, I
Either
got-
she loves Rand and hates that she has to then like let her friend Elaine go for him type of thing,
Or she loves Elaine. I don't know which of the two it is. If it's one of those two, I feel like.
But both make sense as options.
I
Yes.
kind of wondered if there's gonna be some kind of like weird love triangle thing going on here, where we initially thought that Egwene was gonna be part of this, but presumably she's not now,
Right.
and now
I don't think she is.
Avienda's coming in. And because you even see like Rand gives her that bracelet, and like all the maidens are making a big deal about how that shows he's interested in her, but then like him and Avienda like sort of, it's supposed to be implied that like they think like, oh no, that's not the case at all. No, definitely not. Like
She
Yeah.
won't
it's
take it
not a-
off, but she
there's a-
hides it.
Yeah, she's like
Yeah,
hiding
so-
it and like crossing her arms, but then she's also like
She
won't
won't
take it off. Yeah, like it's just I'm suspicious of that.
We'll see.
I mean,
And,
we
yeah,
already
maybe
know
she's
that
resentful
Rand.
she's resentful of him for her feelings for him, or resentful of
That-
him in jealousy of his relationship with Elaine. It could go either way.
We already know Rand is gonna marry like
6 women.
like it's gonna be
He's gonna run a
Min.
harem.
Rand's gonna be running a harem.
He practically already
He already
is.
It's gonna be Min, Elaine, and
Avienda and
fucking the Forsaken girl too. Why not? Let's just throw her in
Lanfear, yeah, why
Lanfear. Let's
not?
throw Lanfear in there.
Well, yeah, because they also that was another thing, like why I was thinking about this too, because they also keep bringing up like they were talking about like the first sisters or like what basically like how Ruark is married to like the two women,
women.
and they like
Yeah,
keep
they're
bringing
already
up that,
introducing it.
like point.
He's gonna
It's-
marry multiple women.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
I'm like,
There's
what is
no way
what is
he
gonna
doesn't.
happen? Like, what is going on here?
He's gonna marry every single woman on the
Little
planet.
did we know that Robert Jordan was completely cool with polyamory.
Little do we know he had 6 wives.
Ahead of his time.
Ahead of his time.
I mean, it's
Or maybe behind his time.
well, yes, I would say like it'd be nice if we got the reverse as well of like 2 men marrying 1 woman for the
Right.
culture as well, instead of it just being
No,
like
it's always
the one way.
man.
Yeah, where it's just the one man. So that
Right.
feels a little bit sexist. But I'd like to point out that there's been a Min vision.
You have 3 faces around
3.
Rand.
So
One is hers. One is Elaine's.
we know those
the
2
other
for
could be
sure. So there's
Avienda.
one more.
That was blurry.
And
that
it's-
she doesn't-
At this point, it's got to be either Lanfear or
Oh, yeah, it could be
Avienda.
Lanfear.
Because in the past life, she married Luce Theron, or was
Or like in love with him.
Yeah,
Something
they
like
were.
that.
Yeah,
They were-
there was
There
a,
was something.
there was a relationship there, but we know Luce Theron married
A different woman.
a different woman that was
Okay.
not Lanfear. Because she talks about why I can't remember her name now off the top
Like
of my
that
head.
other woman. Like she
It's-
mentions her.
It's a woman that's gosh, why can't I remember that? Who was?
I will say though, for Avianda's sake, the beginning, I was like, God damn, this woman, just Jesus, like, why do you hate Rand so much? I hated it most of it.
Until like there was that one chapter that we skipped forward a week. After that,
Avianda got a lot better.
Yeah.
for me, and I started to like her a lot more.
She
after
really
that.
chilled out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Also,
So-
side note, I wish I didn't have these tattoos. Else, I would totally get Rand's dragon tattoos.
On your arms.
Oh yeah, those sound badass.
I'd like to see a picture
I've
first.
actually thought about it. I would show you, but yeah, they're
Oh,
basically
those are so cool.
they're basically like dragon, like I think heads right here, and it wraps around the
and then it like
arm.
wraps
Right.
around.
It wraps
his
around
arm.
both
Yeah.
forearms. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, twice
Both
and
arms. Like,
twice.
sounds cool.
Twice and twice he shall be marked.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like,
Herons, dragons.
which is okay. Cool.
I can't find it on a quick look, but I know there's a. God, I can't believe I can't remember the name, but yeah, Luce Theron marries a like different woman that's not Lanfear.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Let's talk about the conclusion of this book. How did you guys like the ending with? Let's start off with tricking Lanfear and Asmodean.
Plan was good. Plan was really good. I know we had problems with us not being told what it is, but once it was executed, I was like, oh, that's actually really clever. I really liked it. I found the ending to this book really exciting.
I did re-listen to it. I was like, wait, what the fuck happened?
I'm still a little
Yeah.
confused at
It's-
like why Asmodean would feel like any push to teach Rand anything.
So
Because now he's being forced to.
yeah.
He can't go to the Dark One.
So
Well, yeah, but I mean, like why not just rebel against Rand? Like eventually he'd get an opening, right? Like,
So
I'm a-
I have answers. I have answers for you that are explained in the book that I can talk about. The first thing is being that Rand. We all knew that Rand needed a teacher. That's basically brought up throughout like the entirety of book 3, I think, and the
Lanfear
entirety.
said at the very beginning of this book. Yeah.
Yeah, and Lanfear talked about it through this book too. Of like he's like, and even book 2, I think, is mentioned like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I have no one to teach me. And Moiraine's like, well, you're gonna figure it out. And
Yeah.
he's like, that's not
Not helpful.
good enough. I need someone to actually show me how to use this power. So in the conclusion, basically, so first off, he uses a doorway, he bends space, and basically learns develops a new well, it's not new, but discovers an old talent of the power, which is called skimming, which allows him to go into that black realm and teleport between locations.
Which I believe he did in the first book too.
Dude, that description for
Right?
him doing that was awesome.
No, he
makes me
didn't.
like, oh, Jordan
I thought
can.
he did it before. Like he'd mentioned that he'd done it before.
He's done
he
something.
imagined himself doing it.
And he's done stuff like that. Well, he did something similar in book 3 where he warped space to, I
That
believe,
was it. It was book 3.
He entered the dream world
Yeah,
with
he was
his
following the
physical
guy doing that.
his physical body.
Which we learn in this book is
don't do that.
a no.
Yeah, the wise ones are like, don't do that. Don't do that.
It's like, you don't want to do that.
There's like dangers to doing that. So he does that. He gets to Rodion because he knows that he already knows that Lanfear is here, and he knows Asmodean's with her, but he wasn't sure which of the two that they were.
Which.
He knew that they were all the traders were dark friends. He just didn't know which ones were the first. He knew they were both there though.
Because someone mentioned that they had to be. I think it was Matt. Said like, oh, there's no way they aren't dark friends, or Avienda did.
No, I mean, Rand basically hints at like he's like it's always in the eyes, and Matt's like this guy's
and,
fucking
Avienda, I think,
crazy.
repeats it.
Oh, I kind of forgot about that.
Yep.
I was gonna ask you because I didn't pick up on any of the hints.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Obviously, there were a lot of hints.
Yeah, there was lots of like he's always like you gotta watch the eyes, Matt, and Matt's like this man. Please, Rand, please don't go crazy right now. I really want to go home, not be in this wasteland.
And then Avienda repeats it.
Yeah.
Separate from Rand, and Matt goes, "Oh, maybe Rand wasn't crazy."
Yeah.
I remember
he
all
knows
those sections. I just didn't think like, oh, one of them's a Forsaken type of thing. I just was like, this guy's just kind of shifty.
He's always talking about like how he's like I gotta outpace him. I gotta be faster. I gotta be faster than them. And it's like he knows that he's basically the bait for them. Like he knows he's baiting them in. You can tell, and there's like a few sections of like him thinking about it and like talking about the Tinkers and stuff like that, and being like, I need to do what they don't think I'm gonna do.
Right.
Which
for me it just wasn't enough, I guess, blatant hints.
No, it was
just
very
thinking, like, these people are just shady.
It's very subtext. It's very much like just hinted at, and like it makes more sense on a second read through.
Definitely made it seem like he was crazy.
But then so he creates the rain in the bowl for the Aiel after he basically like blows their minds and like is basically like shut the fuck up, Couladin.
Yeah, Couladin.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about. I mean, he'll come back. He'll be a problem.
I figured.
And then we jump to Rodion where he confronts Asmodean, and they both grab the key, which is the statue in the male statue in Kyrian, which we saw in book 2, the one that's being excavated out. That's got the giant glass sphere. Mm-hmm. The sangreal that they hold is basically a connection to that statue. And they both grab it at the same time, and they're basically fighting over it with the power. And then he uses the extra power of his, so he pulls through both. And he's already snapped the Dark One's power from, I think, Beelzemon in the last book, where he cuts the dark cord. So he does that to Asmodean, and now he has no connection to the Dark One at all. And he basically uses the point of like, the Forsaken don't work together. They don't trust each other. They're all basically in it for their own selfish reasons, and they will backstab just like all the other Dark One, like the Dark Friends and stuff like that. They'll stab each other in the back to get a step up on the others.
And when they learn that he's powerless,
and when they learn that he's powerless / that he's not connected to the Dark One anymore, they're either gonna think, oh, boom, opportunity to take out a rival, or 2, he cut himself off from the power, and he's trying to like redeem himself. So we're gonna kill him. So basically,
he basically blackmails him.
Yeah, he's lost. He's basically anyway he goes. The only person he can turn to protect him is Rand. He has no other choices, which is why Rand has basically blackmailed him into teaching him.
I believe Rand also says, it would be a shame if I mentioned to the Aes Sedai following me that you were a Forsaken.
Yes.
Like, you don't want them finding about that either.
Yeah, he's basically like put into a corner, which is supposed to be like Rand's ultimate trap, basically, of like, Asmodean's put into a corner where he has no other choice but to hope that Rand wins, because if Rand doesn't win, he is dead, no
He's
matter
dead too.
what he does.
The plan was great.
So yeah, it's basically
I loved it.
it's basically like a checkmate on Asmodean, and it gives Rand exactly what he needs. But it's kind of like also like a fuck you to Lanfear, because Lanfear was bringing Asmodean to teach him in the first place. But he's like, nah. I'm taking him with no strings attached.
Right.
He flipped the situation, used it to his advantage.
So that was kind of that's kind of the big reason why he's like, he doesn't have a choice anymore. He has to teach Rand, which also gives us the opportunity for Rand to actually learn, because he didn't want to learn from someone who was tainted by the Dark One. That was his big thing, right? He's like, no one can teach me that's not a Forsaken. Guess what? You're stuck with me now, and you're not tainted by the Dark One anymore, so we're gonna go mad together, bro.
It was awesome.
So yeah, it's basically one of those things where it's like he kind of outplayed the he used the Forsaken selfishness to outplay them.
Right. I forgot we also got that point in the beginning of the book where the girls are kind of like
They try
trying
to
to
teach him.
teach him,
Yes.
or like trying to understand
Each other's.
like power, or like how they channel.
How do they channel?
And the only thing I could think of that whole time was like, Nynaeve for three, or not Nynaeve, Moraine for 3 books has been like, I can't teach you. And hey, at least these 3 girls are like trying, or these 2 girls are trying at least, and
Yeah.
like they actually learned something.
They
But
they
now we
Moraine
learn
was like,
why
no,
Moraine
dude.
didn't want to teach
They-
him.
Yeah.
they tried, but like yeah, Moraine's clearly right. It's a point of like Moraine's right, but like they did learn, like Rand learned how to sense when a woman channels.
You're right.
Yeah.
There was stuff that he was able to learn still,
Yeah.
and I was just like, God, see, Moraine, you're just a piece of shit.
No, it was just a little bit of like it's a little bit of like a character flaw for Moraine, right? She's a little bit cocky and
Right.
arrogant, and she
She's
thinks
lost in her ways.
and she thinks she
Yeah.
knows what's best, and so she learns. She doesn't learn at that point, but it's kind of like a hint to the readers that like Moraine is fallible. She's not perfect. She's still
Right.
just a
She doesn't
person.
know everything.
I feel like that's one of the things that this book does really well, is that it's like showing you with Gideon and with Moraine and stuff like that. It's like these mentor characters, these big godlike characters, they're just people too,
Yeah.
Right.
and they can bleed and they can make mistakes.
They've been built up over X amount of books to have all the answers, but turns out
They have none.
they just aren't as right as they think they are.
We also get this part at the beginning, which I don't know if you guys picked up on, but we get like quotation mark the restoration of Rodion at the very end, where like the lake is refilling next to it. What did you guys think of that?
I missed that completely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
well, me too.
talk about like how the Rand said something about like the once like everything was done, the like deep ocean of water underneath was like rising up, and then they like talk about like someday it might be like a lake with greenery around it, and like there people will come flock to it for
Yeah.
civilization.
Like it might become a
Because-
major city in the waste. And the
I don't know
mist-
why I completely missed that.
I
And
completely
the
Was
missed
that was that when the music started happening, like at the end of the book when I was?
It was
listening?
like at the very, very end of the book, he starts talking about that. And
I think
then
I was still shell shocked.
Yeah, it's
from his
honestly
plan.
probably within the last like few pages.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I was definitely still
very,
like
very-
reeling from what he just did. I did not catch that at all.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
there's an element of like the restoration, like he has brought change, physical change to the waste, and it's an element of like him realizing that like I've destroyed a lot of things, but I'm also bringing some good things too.
Yeah, time to create some stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think it kind of gets glossed over in the book too, but like stepping back a bit, we also can't gloss over the fact that Couladin also has the dragon tattoos. Like that's something that totally came out of left field.
Yeah, I was not expecting that.
It was kind of explained, I think, a little bit by Lanfear, that the one Forsaken gave them to him.
Oh,
Mhm.
The male
That's right.
Forsaken
Yeah.
gave
Oh,
them to
did
him.
he?
Asmodean.
Asmodeum gave them to. Again, completely agree with you. It came out of left field.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
needed.
what?
I totally
It
missed
really,
that
it really
explanation.
needed to be that
It
one.
needed to be a little chapter, a little like 3 pages.
It
of,
needed to be a scene. We needed to
Yeah.
see that in scene. I agree with you on that one. That was definitely one that's like, I
Like,
knew that's what
oh.
happened, but I actually totally missed it on this read through. But I knew that he got them from like a non-legitimate way.
Right.
But it needed to be
I think
something.
either way would have been fine. Like if they would just said like, oh yeah, he copied them.
Yeah.
Like
He
that
got
would have been
them
fine.
tattooed.
But it was very specific. Like she said something like, oh, what's his name again? For a second,
Asmodeum.
Asmodeum is in Rodian, and gave the tattoos to Couladin.
Yeah. Couladin
Basically.
did not earn them. That's why he doesn't understand. He doesn't know the
Right, he doesn't know.
the
He
history.
didn't know the history. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when
But
he's
But no,
like,
I'm
that
with you.
explanation.
That came out of fucking nowhere. Where it's just like, what? What are you talking about? What do you mean you have the tattoos all of a sudden?
It
But
was a
yeah,
big
I just-
surprise. I was like, what the fuck?
yeah, it should
Also,
have been a scene.
I want to know
for sure.
Asmodeum's plan for that. Like, what were you gonna gain out of that? Giving this other person the tattoos?
I think trying to get them to kill Rand.
Yeah, he's trying
Yeah,
to
I
get,
mean,
he's trying
he
to take
seemed,
Rand
he
out of the
seemed
picture.
like he wasn't like Landfear seems like she's very in depth, like long term thinking about things. He seemed like he was much less so, and a little
Mhm.
more like spur of the
Here's
moment or
here's a
short
small problem.
sighted.
Yeah,
Like,
here's a small.
Here's
What was he
small-
doing in Rhodium anyway? As well.
He was
Oh.
he thought that the keys were there,
Oh, okay.
which he was right. They were there.
They were
That
there.
makes sense. Okay,
But yeah, he was trying to get to them before Rand could get to them.
gotcha.
But he was
Okay.
having trouble getting through the mist. The mist was like blocking him because it was a source of like blocking him out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Lot
Lot of stuff.
There's a lot. So this is why, again, this is why I say this is kind of where the Wheel of Time begins, because this is where we start splitting up characters significantly. Like, characters are like gonna be weaving in and out of everywhere. But there's also like there's so much setup in this book. And
Right.
it keeps like there's so many like, and like, let me tell you, Jordan does a pretty good job of you not needing to remember literally every detail, but there's the satisfaction of knowing like where things are tied to. But yeah, you will like, he makes it obvious enough throughout the book that you get the sense, but like the little things you pick up on rereads and stuff like that. Do you guys have anything else? Do we have another question down here? Do you guys have anything else?
No.
Think so. I'm trying to even remember if there's like small stuff that we've missed.
We
in-
covered a lot of
Oh,
stuff.
we covered a lot, but I think there's still some small stuff. But
I mean,
nothing, I don't think anything.
there's
that
always
has
gonna be small
ramifications.
stuff.
Yeah, that we can't
Yeah.
cover. We couldn't cover everything.
Can't
We'd,
cover
We'd
everything.
literally be here. We're
Book's way
almost
too big.
yeah, we're almost at 3 hours now. So we would literally have to take all night if we were gonna try to break literally everything down.
all right, book order.
Yeah, let's do book order. So let's start. Logan, you seem excited, and you haven't talked recently.
I just already like know where mine's at. So.
Okay.
Because after book 3, from like best to worst for me, it was 3, 2, 1. Just continuing right along in that fashion. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Really?
Yep, easily.
Yep.
Easily.
So 4 is the best for you. 3rd is
3 and 2, like I made the point last time, like depending on
Could
the
be
day, could be
interchangeable.
kind of interchangeable. But 4 for sure, 4 at the moment for me is like clear winner of the 4 books we've read so far. For me
Gotcha.
personally, easy win.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm the exact same. I mean, I would probably put 3 just edging out 2 a little bit, but yeah, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Riker.
I actually 100% agree, except flip flop 3 and 2.
So 4,
But
2.
again,
3,
dependent on the day. But 4, I believe I talked to you about this, Marcus. Like 4, like a general book, this book is a solid like 8 or 9. For like
Yep.
part of this series, I think we like, or like it was a 4 out of 5 or something like that. But in this series, it was like a 3.5 given the bullshit that happens between chapter 2 and 18.
Yeah.
But yes, no, this book was great. Loved it. It's my favorite of the series so far.
I mean, 4 for sure is still the best for me. I think I definitely differ from you guys. I go 4, 2, 1, 3. Third being
Marcus
my
the outlier.
my least
Man,
favorite,
yeah,
mostly
don't like
because just because of the repetition of
Two.
separating, coming back,
which has
and the repetition
happened.
of 1 and 2.
Which is
It just-
happened multiple times. This is the first time we don't get to see that, which is I knew was coming. I was so excited about it.
Which is
separated
probably
and
why.
stayed that way with plot lines that are going to the next book. I
Yeah.
think this is the first time
Yep.
that we've got that.
I will say though, in general, this is like people's favorite book of Wheel of Time, right?
like, I mean, it's almost widely accepted this is number 1 or 2, or in the top 3 from what I've been hearing.
I would have
That-
to read reviews because I don't
Oh,
know
actually, I
that I would put
didn't-
it on top 3 for myself.
I totally forgot that it did that. I mean, for in general, this is actually the 5th highest ranked.
Okay, I
Wheel
could
of Time book,
I could see it
Be-
being up there.
which
That is pretty high up for 14 books.
The last 3 books are 1, 2, and 3 in order.
I would agree. I was gonna say I would say that
The-
probably
the
the last 3.
Sandersons.
I probably hold on. I'm gonna say what mine, at least some of mine would be. I actually think 13 is my favorite. I probably would say 13, 14, 12, and then I think 5 might be my number 4.
Ooh, next book.
Yeah. What's
So-
number 4 on that list?
The 4th highest rated.
Yes.
The Dragon Reborn.
So
Yeah.
book 3.
It's a
Oh.
4.25 rating, where this one's a 4.24.
Oh, I don't think it deserves that. I think this
Yeah,
book deserves
it's-
to be higher than 3.
I totally agree. So yeah, the last 3 are the 1 through 3. Dragon Reborn is 4th. This one is 5th. 6th is Great Hunt. 7th is Eye of the World. The next book,
Oof.
or Lord of Chaos, is 10th. Or
Oh.
wait, I skipped one. I'm sorry. 8th is the next book, apparently.
The 5th book.
The 5th book.
Lord
is
of
that one
Chaos.
called?
Oh yeah, you're looking
No,
at
or
the
no,
Fires
of-
Goodreads,
Fires
the
of Heaven.
Goodreads
Fires of
ranking.
Heaven.
Yeah,
It's bad.
Goodreads.
And then
Goodreads is
Lord
what
of
I'm looking
Chaos.
at.
Lord of Chaos is okay.
10th.
I don't.
But it's tied. It's tied with 10th.
I really don't agree with that list whatsoever. I like
I mean, I don't agree with most of this. It's
so
totally wrong.
so one thing for sure that I will say is, like, I know there's talk about like there being a slump in the middle of the series, and I think on my first read through I definitely felt like that, because there's definitely an extension of the series, because it was supposed to be 6 books I believe originally, and they extended it out, and then it was supposed to be 12, but Sanderson got to the last book, he's like, I cannot tell this conclusion in one book. Well, I think he wrote it as one book, and then he's like, we're splitting this.
It like
into
got to
three.
be way too big.
Yeah.
I
Let's
think.
spread
Right?
them
It
out.
would have been like, it would have been like a 150-hour audiobook.
So,
This one was already 40.
y-
But that was rough.
what's the slog considered? It's
I think the slog is
7, 8, 9,
considered
I think
7 through 10ish. Yeah, is usually
Yeah.
considered where the slog
They
is
are
at.
pretty much 11, 12,
Which
13, 14.
which I don't agree with, because there's a lot of like good character moments and good setup and stuff like that I feel like are in the middle of the series that I really appreciate. I actually think 1 is the worst book of the series, which is well, if we're not counting the New Spring. New Spring is by far, I dislike New Spring.
We gotta read it.
So we're gonna
I
read
didn't
it.
even-
And I've only read it once, so I might take it on a second read through and be like, yeah, it's a little bit better. But I personally, the first time I read it, I was like, I could care less. Because it just, I don't know. I didn't feel like it added enough value for me to bother. It's not super long though, so it'll be relatively quick.
It would be rated like the 11th best book.
New Spring?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, people are crazy. I mean, to be fair, like,
Oh, I'm sorry, 11th, like best as in it's
Yeah,
down. It's
yeah.
way down the list.
I mean,
Okay.
that's still beating other books. I think 1 is. I know a lot of people really have a soft spot for 1, because obviously like this is where the story begins and
start.
stuff like that. It starts. I just think it's the worst written book of the series. That's not saying it's bad. It's still a decent book. It's just like, I would say it's above average for overall quality of books that I've read. It's just like Jordan's writing improves significantly throughout the entirety of the series. We can already see it in book 4 how much better his writing is. And I think it's a matter of like people read the first book and there's like that nostalgia factor.
Right. Yeah, that's a big part.
And like it's subjective. I mean, all like writing and reviews is subjective, and people are gonna, being objective about some of this stuff can be kind of difficult. So,
but I will say, to be fair to, so the last 3 books are obviously rated the 3 highest.
Mhm.
If you've gotten to books 12, 13, 14, you're invested in the story and you like the story, you're gonna rank it higher.
True.
Whereas a lot of people, from what I've read from like the 1-star reviews, a lot of people dropped the series after this book. Apparently, this book was very polarizing.
I mean,
when it came to people like liking it, continuing it, or just giving up.
Well, keep in mind that this book also added like 400 pages.
Yeah.
Like it got
for me, the world building was
that does kind of make me wonder if like part of that is people not used to reading like huge thick volumes of books too. That could have felt like it dragged on just because people aren't used to that much content in
right.
There was a lot of content.
This is
that's not like normal reading.
To be fair
Boy,
too,
it got so good.
I just want you to know. So Elizabeth, I think, is on book 6, and she's been on book 6 for over a year now. So, and she's probably not going to pick it up again. My dad, I think, made it to book 9 or 10, but he was also reading it as it came out. So there's a little bit of like that element that stopped him. I think my brother's on book 7 or 8, and he stopped at that point. So I don't understand how you can get 7 or 8 books into a series or 9 and stop.
You gotta finish.
To be fair, Gavin, I've also heard you complain about multiple books or TV shows or whatever, and you're like, I gotta see what happens.
True.
Like, there's stuff I've just totally dropped. I'm like, man, I'm not interested in this at all.
Yeah.
Like, I love horror movies, and I watched The Witch, and people loved it. Like, it was insane, and I stopped watching halfway through, which I never do for movies.
Fun fact for our viewers, and I'm sorry if some of you like Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I read the entirety of Throne of Glass, and I didn't particularly like the series. There were elements that I enjoyed about it, but
No idea what it is.
okay, first off, it's not marketed towards men anyway. It's a fantasy romance novel, okay? Hey, listen.
I
okay.
hear my next
Hey,
book.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Romance written well's great.
I try to branch out significantly as I read, but I personally out of a lot of the teen YA fantasy romances that I've read, that's actually one of the better ones that I've read.
Oh.
But I still did not.
Edward Bella level? Like, is it like that good?
Let's not talk about this.
Oh no, it's Bella Jacob level. Got it.
50 Shades.
Kill me now.
That's better.
Real quick to your point though too, Marcus, I think you're talking about being invested, getting that far into a series. On the other hand, you could also argue that that's going to make people a lot more critical.
True.
If they're that invested, they're going to get that far into a series. I mean, they're expecting a lot.
Yeah,
That's true.
I mean, like, again, the payoffs at the end of the series are definitely worth the build up that it takes.
and I'd say those last 3 books are very special given the circumstances. Regarding
I'm sure.
Yeah, that too. This is a kind of a unique circumstance with Jordan passing and stuff
Yeah.
too. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so
that's
that definitely endears.
it's part of the
in a good
reason
way.
why I respect him so much as a writer, because like, and we'll get to that point when we get to the book 12, but there's like, which I really recommend, if you guys are going to read, you read the writer's note in the beginning, because I think Sanderson writes a note about Jordan, and I know it's in the audiobook and it's read out in the audiobook, but it's basically talking about how much he loved his fans, that he basically like tried to get the rest of this done so that someone else could finish the series, so that
His
fans,
dying wish was to have
Yes.
this story finished.
yes, so that the fans could have a conclusion to, all this time that they've invested in, which I very much
That's
respect as a writer. I think it's one of it's one of the things that like makes me appreciate this even more.
I don't think Game of Thrones fans are going to get the same treatment.
I think it's gonna get
No
finished by
comment.
someone else.
No comment.
Definitely
Prediction.
no comment.
George R. R. Martin's gonna die.
And
with
I've
fucking
read all
written
the
on
books.
his tombstone.
I've read all those books.
I-
And Gavin, I don't think you have.
Nope, I've read the first one and I stopped because
Yeah.
I don't. Well, let's not talk
I'm
about
pissed.
that. I think people will be mad at me, but it's just a preference of writing style that And
Yeah.
there's
I
nothing
guess-
wrong. They're good books. They are well written. I'm not saying they're not well written. It's just I personally do not like that style of writing. It's very historical fantasy. It's not my taste. It's okay.
I guess my point that I was going to start with, like, a lot of people think or say that this is like in their top echelon of books, even though Goodreads doesn't agree. I will say that kind of worries me with just how slow this book was paced and how many more problems there really were. I felt like in this book, it was still a great book. It's still my favorite so far. I felt like there were so many more problems than I thought there would be with people's one of the most their most favorite entries, I guess, into the Wheel of Time.
I mean, with books
it's
that get
like,
this big, there's always going to be problems. There's no way to not have critiques.
Well, 1,000
and
pages.
problems.
There's
Yeah.
got to be pacing issues.
I don't know. I guess I would say, Logan, you've obviously read the Stormlight Archives, the 1,200-page book of Oathbringer, or even Way of Kings. I felt like this book was longer than Way of Kings, and Way of Kings is another 200 pages longer.
Yeah, Way of Kings is longer.
That's what I mean. Like, this book just felt longer, even though it was only 1,000.
Again, keep in mind, Jordan had a very tight deadline. Sanderson does not have to follow that
It's
deadline.
true.
Sanderson is also insane,
Book out in a year.
and Sanderson
true.
also has like a plethora of alpha and beta readers, and he has like consultants that he does for historical accuracy, and like I think he had a
He just
mental
has more
health
resources.
Yeah, he has
Yeah.
resources that Jordan did not have access to because that was not a thing at that time. Or at least if it was a thing, it wasn't something that Jordan had access to. So, and like with a year deadline, whereas like Sanderson takes 3 years between Stormlight books, like he has more time to polish them to a level of quality. With that being said, and maybe we'll talk about Stormlight at some point in the future. I know we've already done a Drink and Discuss on Rhythm of War. Well, I mean, me and Logan have. But I still have, like, I love Stormlight. I still have problems with Stormlight. There are still critiques I have of the book. I don't think there's ever going to be a book that's perfect. There'll always be something.
For sure not, but there was just definitely a lot more. Like, if I wasn't reading with you guys, there's definitely a lot of points where I probably see myself putting this book down for a long period of time.
Yep.
To then come back to try to pick it back up.
Admittedly, had we
I
not
do
had
agree
this
with that.
deadline, I probably would have put it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
At least for a little bit, just to like.
There's definitely points where like I put my headphones
decompress.
in at work, listened, but focused on other stuff while letting it go.
Yeah,
and try to get to a better part.
I mean,
would
I
say.
even had parts of that too. I mean, I think, but that's the thing is like, with a series this long, and this dense, and as much setup and stuff like that that's in these books, you have to accept. I mean, this happens in Stormlight as well. I'm fairly certain this probably happens in Game of Thrones as well, where there's gonna be parts that drag. And there's
the last
nothing,
two books.
There's
were not great.
nothing you can do to fix that. You are making a choice. Like, think about it compared to Cradle. Will White is making the choice to make Cradle so tight pacing, but he's leaving out character moments. He's making that decision. He's cutting back on his book so that he can make the pacing quick and try to keep all this interest and stuff like that going on. But he's losing these side character moments that we get in the Wheel of Time. But because we get those in the Wheel of Time, the pacing is slower and some parts drag on the book. So you have to make the choice as a writer. That's never going to be like, neither is right or neither is wrong. It's just like you're taking a risk. Either way, you do it.
True.
Okay. Any last thoughts?
Cradle's good.
Cradle's great.
I had it written down here, because we've talked about the Taviran's powers
Mm-hmm.
a lot in this specific review. We've seen it done in a really positive way, and I guess kind of in a negative way with like, it's kind of scary how much Rand can influence people. I'd love to see that more. I'd love to see more conflict regarding Taviran's powers, whether it be in an antagonistic way, maybe a fourth party, because this doesn't necessarily. I don't think it says anywhere that these three are the only Taviran in the world. It's just the only ones that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see it used in an antagonistic way. It's not really a prediction, just something I'd love to see. It would really.
I
really grip me.
am no comment.
I say I think we're gonna see it.
I really hope we do. I love it.
I-
It's so cool.
I can't say anything. No, I can't explain anything. Think what you will.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff. We have a long journey left ahead of us, boys.
Yeah, we
yeah.
still got 10 books to go.
Yeah.
And
well,
the next one is shorter. At
we
least.
have 11 books to
11.
go if we're reading New Spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be
We're
fair,
not
the middle
quite a third of the way through.
yeah, the middle books are also start to get like there's some of them that get actually a little bit shorter and then they expand back out towards the end. So, I think this is
That's
one of the longer books of the series.
I think it is the longest, if I remember right.
I'm pretty sure 13 and 15 or 13 and 14 are longer.
13, 14. Okay.
I'm 90% sure that
So
14.
this is it looks like this is actually second longest and is only
Second.
beat by book 6, which is only 6 pages longer.
Oh.
So they're basically the same.
really. I thought I thought 14 and
14
800.
well, so according to this, I think just by like paperback, like your standard paperback on this Wikipedia says 14 is 912 pages, 4 and 6 are 981 and 987 respectively.
okay.
Oh, just very
Respectfully.
close.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're all
so-
really
So this
close.
and five is 963. So once we get through 5 and 6, like
Oh,
this chunk of 3 books is like the longest section of the series.
963. Holy shit.
Yeah,
So,
then we
like, it'll go
yeah
down
yeah
after that.
seven
In for
seven
another long
eight
one, boys.
7 8 9 10 I think are pretty short. Like they're about the length of the first books, I think.
Comparatively. So like
Yeah.
600, 700 pages.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
So let's do
Weird that we're saying that's nice.
let's do predictions quick.
Oh, predictions.
Oh, we got 2 things left. We still got to do predictions, and then we got to do one more thing.
Let us-
Yeah, I mean, I think the main prediction I was thinking of was, like I said before, with Manethrin. Like, I feel like that's going to come back in some capacity because we even see like Emmons Field building up already. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of what it seemed like to me.
Yeah, no, that seems. I agree with you on that. The only real big prediction I kind of thought of was, I feel like Perrin is just gonna deal with White Cloaks for the rest of the series. Like, I feel like that's just gonna be his immortal
The
enemies.
White Cloak saga.
Yeah, I don't know what else he's gonna do other than fight the White Cloaks.
I mean,
At this
someone's
point.
got to do it. Rand's not going to.
Right.
I do also kind of feel like in relation to the White Cloaks, well, like we talked about with Galad, having his like
Oh.
whatever weird tie with the White Cloaks that we
Oh,
got
yeah,
an
yeah.
inkling of, because he's also the one that they said like he will sacrifice whatever it takes to do the right
To
thing,
do the right
or like
thing.
What he
whatever,
thinks is
something
the
along
right
those
thing,
lines.
yeah.
Yes.
So like
That's
that makes me
corrupted.
wonder if he's going to be doing something that maybe we view as like antagonistic to maybe the main crew or something, but like
To him, it's
he sees it as
correct.
the right thing to do.
Yeah, he's
don't
basically lawful good paladin to the extreme.
Yeah, I think he's just gonna become a White Cloak because didn't he get a Didn't Min see it? I think is that what you said earlier, right?
That was his. That was her
Yeah, he had the
prediction.
book.
Yeah,
He had
was
the
her
book.
vision.
Yeah, yeah. I think
He
he's just
saw
gonna become
him
a White Cloak.
Cloaked in white. It was just what she said.
Yeah, maybe actually Perrin will have to fight him then, because I think Perrin's got to fight White Cloaks. I think he's gonna become a White Cloak maybe.
I don't know anything about the White.
Well, I
Tower
can't
at this
remember
point.
with the White Cloaks too. We know that what's his face is a dark friend, not Buyer, but the Bornhald, right? Or who was it? Somebody
Give me
like
a
a dark friend?
It was
Yeah,
like the guy
Give me a
above
second.
him.
Yeah,
Was it
it's
Pedro Nile?
No, Pedro
Niles.
Nile is not the dark friend. It's one of the people underneath him.
What'd you
Or
say?
oh no, it's the guy in Tenchico. Whatever,
Yeah.
Jaichin or whatever, I forget what his name is.
Volda,
He's on the council,
right?
or at least was invited to the council.
I
Eamon
think we also
Volda?
kind of
Was that his name?
Hmm?
Volda?
man called
That
Ball.
doesn't. I don't know what that is.
I don't remember.
It was in the prelude of the
It's
third
like
book.
Jaichin.
Oh,
or something like that.
Jakin
Jake-
Carden.
Pardon.
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 Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think we also. Oh fuck! Totally forgot what I was gonna say. I feel like we talked about it, but. Oh god damn it! There was
okay.
a prediction that we all had.
Riker.
Yeah, that's just past me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. My prediction is that Glad's gonna be. I think he's gonna go up those ranks of White Cloaks fast. I think he's gonna lead them. I
He
think he's gonna
could.
become the leader.
I agree.
With how Min sees it, I predict he's gonna be the leader. And then I also predict that with uh Matt's future, uh, he will marry the daughter of Nine Moons, and the sacrificing half the light, I believe, is him having to let her go in some way.
Kill her.
I'm sensing some tragedy in Matt's future. He can't be super lucky all the time.
Trying to just figure out which romances are bad in the Wheel of Time so far, because I like Fael and Perrin.
Elaine and Rand's.
Well,
It's kind of meh.
I do have
You got me
another
there.
prediction, but I can't really talk about it because it's kind of informed by the thing that I accidentally got spoiled that I told Gavin about.
Oh no.
how far in is that? Your spoil? Like how many books in?
Well, Gavin told me probably around 7 or 8 or something like that.
Jesus.
I have to.
What did you look up?
We'll have to confirm again because I'm trying to remember what you told me. But
What
okay,
the fuck did you look up?
let's go through. Okay, after this book, favorite characters. Riker.
Perrin.
Okay, Marcus is Perrin. Riker.
Perrin.
Going with Perrin.
Okay. Logan. Riker.
Lan definitely took a back seat, so I can't really say Lan.
Yeah, he wasn't even in this book.
I'm gonna give Fael.
Fail's good.
She was up there.
Are
too.
we
badass.
talking favorite character of the book or like our favorite character overall?
Favorite character so far in the series,
Oh
and it
That's
can
a
be
hard one.
informed by like this book specifically.
man. Our
type
main
thing.
two boys really took a back seat this book, so I can't really
Mhm.
say that they.
No. Mine's like Perrin, Fael, Matt, Avianda. Roughly in that maybe order.
I feel like
I can tell you who my least favorite is.
Is it Nynaeve?
Oh wow. How'd you know?
How'd you guess?
That was from page 1 of book 1.
I feel like Fael is definitely up there. Perrin like leaped up the rankings in this book. Not that he was like low before, but he's definitely got way cooler.
His part
this
got
book.
super compelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Loyal's awesome as always.
Yeah. See,
Love
He
there's
just took a back seat in this book, so
Yeah, he just
we didn't
felt
get
like
too
he
much
didn't
of
do
him.
quite as much.
see.
I wish we saw them fight to
That
go.
would've been
to
really
There's
the
all
portal.
these great character moments in the slog part of the series, and I just cannot wait for you guys to get to some of them because I think some of the best moments in the series are during that part that people call the slog of the series.
But they don't. Those few parts don't raise the book up.
I don't know.
I mean,
about
and
that one.
now for you at this point, but
If
I
I
don't know
get
about
through
that.
those books and I still think Nynaeve sucks, I'm blaming you, Gavin.
When does that even get good?
God, I
Hey,
have.
beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Okay,
Marcus.
okay.
It's all in the eyes.
We'll talk about this later. I'm gonna talk to you guys about that in a sec, but I'm gonna sign off for us because we are at. I mean, with technical difficulty time, we're still gonna be hitting about 3 hours. So
Woo!
easily.
goodbye. We'll be
Goodbye.
back for book 5. So
Nynaeve still sucks.
be
Sorry
prepared.
if you think otherwise. You
Check
can be
in
wrong.
next month. She might still suck.
Goodbye, guys.